Hey, welcome back to Lorehammer, a podcast that you thought we'd never talk about Astartes, but hey, we're here. We're talking Primarchs even. That's one better than Astartes. I'm your host, Primarch, as they've taken to calling me over the last week, which I don't know if I want to be associated in that way. Do I have to go on some type of genocidal crusade? Hard to say. I don't know all the requirements needed to earn that title, but whatever, I'm here. We also got joining me today. We got Court. Hey.
Hey, what's going on, Mark? Good to be here. Thanks again. I am excited to learn big time on this episode. I'm going to be learning for sure.
Yeah, what an episode to learn about. Lionel Johnson and a Primarch. We also got joining us, as always, on Team 3, as I call you guys. Logan, welcome.
Hey, thank you. And I am so glad that you've seen the radiant light of the Imperial truth so we can move forward learning about the glorious Primarchs together. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And you know what? Believe it or not, part 1 of this episode, I actually had fun doing. Wow. I had fun talking about Primarchs.
Shock.
Yeah. No, it's going to be fun. Tonight's episode is going to be part 2 of Lionel Johnson. Part 1 was kind of his origin story and the Great Crusade. And in this part, we're going to be talking about the Horus Heresy and then jump forward 10,000 years to the Era Indomitus. So going to be a good time. But before we get to it, let me try to sell you a t-shirt. I got a website. It's called Redbubble. You can buy t-shirts. You can buy coffee mugs. You can buy whatever you want on there. Heck, you could buy me maybe possibly. Body Pillow Mark version. Up to you. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'll be making that purchase. Logan, I know I've already bought 3 for you for Christmas.
Absolutely.
So
it'll go great with the one I have of you, Tyler, and the other neckbeard pillows I have. It'll just fit in perfectly. Have you guys ever seen that picture actually?
No, but I want it on the Discord now.
No, I'll find it and send it later, but it's a meme of like a milady body pillow. And it's just a stereotypical fedora wife beater, but his tummy's hanging out of it. He's got socks with sandals on. It's peak. I gotta find that and send it to you guys after this.
Okay, I thought you were referring to a photo of like your body pillows that you have that are me and Tyler
all set up on the bed together.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that picture before? No, I don't want to. Burn it.
Burn it.
When did you make a body pillow of me? Why would you do that?
Wow, we are off to.
Purge is wondering if we have feet pics available, but no, we got one better. We got Logan's body pillow pics. So yeah, go buy that on Redbubble.
Yeah, if you go to the highest Patreon tier, maybe we'll send them to you. I don't know yet. We'll see.
This is getting wild. I love it. Oh my gosh. Speaking of Patreon tiers, guys, if you dig the show and want to support the show and all the teams on it and support Primarch, please join the Imperial Tithe. And this directly supports the show by being a Patreon member, joining the Imperial Tithe. The ad-free version of the podcast is only $2.50 a month. That's it. If you want to jump on and watch us record this, the video version, $5 a month, and you get to jump in on the chat, which we're going to learn more about with my man Logan.
Yeah, so if you guys do join that $5 a month tier, you can join us. You can be part of the live chat, which is always fun. You also have the opportunity to actually come on the show and be a part of an episode and immortalize yourself in the glory of Lorehammer. So consider joining.
I don't know if that's a perk or a pro con, hard to say, but you can do it. You can do it.
It's a perk.
Cool. Well, what a fucking episode. I'm going to go and recap Lionel Johnson Origins and Great Crusade just real quick. I'm going to talk about the 2 things I kind of took away from it when writing the notes and talking to Christian and Jordan. So go back and listen to that episode before you listen to this. But the 2 things I kind of took away was oftentimes we see Horus as, the emperor's chosen son. And was that a matter of timing? Was that just the first son he found and then it just became his favorite? I think so. I think ultimately the firstborn son, is Lionel Johnson. And he mimics the emperor so much more in both vision and mindset and motivation than Horus ever did. And it's very interesting to see the parallels between the emperor and how he conquered Terra. Then he went on a great crusade to try to unite humanity. And like he has this unifier kind of goal to him where it's not just a conqueror, it's not just a warrior, it's a unifier. And Lionel Johnson very much has that same thing where tradition be damned, he's here to unify people, where it doesn't matter about the orders and the nightly remnants on Caliban. He's here to change things up and bring everyone together under one banner. And then when the Emperor comes, he really just kind of latch it. The two feel such a kindred to each other, like father, like firstborn son. So that was kind of a very unique little aspect to learn about.
Yeah, it was because there's only 3 legions I know a lot of lore about: Emperor's Children, Death Guard, and Raven Guard. So it was cool hearing the first episode because there's a lot about the Lion I didn't know. So definitely check that out, guys, if you haven't seen that one before this one.
Yeah. And the other kind of thing I really took away from that episode, and the Dark Angels in general, not just the Lion, is how much of a microcosm the Dark Angels and the Lion is of the Imperium as a whole. Like, just like father, like son, the same misfortunate events kind of happen to both of them. They come, they try to unify, and then their most favorite servant or favorite friend or favorite confidant, whatever you want to call Luther or Horus, betrayed them and turned against them. And not only did they turn against them, they mortally wounded their once former student, once former master, and locked them away for all time. And then they kind of split the galaxy in half, or split the Legion in half. So it was very interesting, kind of just playing out, like the firstborn son, like tradition passes on, whether you like it or not, like things carry on and kind of mimic themselves. What do they say? Like, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And this is very much kind of a cause of that, or a situation of that.
One could also argue the sins of the father passed down to be the sins of the son.
Sure. Yeah. And like, there's there's like when your father doesn't beat a sin of his, or like some type of burden of his, you pass it down, and that kid then has to take that on until he beats it. If he doesn't beat it, he passes it on. And it definitely is that little bit of, the Emperor's burdens gets passed on to his firstborn son, the Lion. And has he beat it? We'll see. We'll learn more. We are going to do a little bit more of a recap just about the origins, the arrival of the Emperor, and the Great Crusade, but it's only going to be a paragraph each. If you want to hear way more, 2 hours more of this conversation, go listen back to the previous episode, but we'll give you a little recap on it. The origins of the Lion. In the dark eons of the galaxy's troubled past, a child was hurled into the void by the chaotic whims of the warp. This was no ordinary child, but a primarch, a being of unparalleled strength and purpose, shaped by the Emperor of mankind to be the savior and a warrior. His destination was Caliban, a feral world veiled in forests as ancient as time, where humanity had regressed into feudal existence. The world was plagued by monstrous beasts that prowled its shadowed depths, and in the crucible of danger, the primarch was forged. Known as Lionel Johnson, the Lion, son of the forest, he grew in isolation, a feral child who's conquered the wilderness and its horrors with cunning and strength. When discovered by the knightly orders of Caliban, they recognized in him not a man, but a legend. Rising swiftly through their ranks, the Lion became Grand Master of the Order, uniting the fractured knights of Caliban and leading a purge to cleanse the world of its tainted monstrosities. Yet, even amidst this triumph, he was a figure apart, stoic, calculated, and shrouded in mystery. I love his origin stories. Of all the Primarchs, I think I like his one of the most, for sure. Just the picture of him just alone in the woods fighting warp beasts that can do all manner of things. He fights one warp beast who can shift in and out of invisibility, and the next one is completely different with completely new set of challenges that the Lion has to master. All the while, he doesn't even know there's other humans out there potentially. He just thinks he's just in this like forest just fighting beasts, and that's his life, and that's like his purpose.
What a crazy existence to be, where you're just fighting constantly against things that aren't you.
And you don't even know that there are other yous out there, man. Yeah, what a crazy upbringing.
It's wild to see how every Primarch has their own unique origin story, and Lionel Johnson certainly is quite unique. I think it's cool that they all kind of parallel, though, that they themselves were one of a kind on whatever planet they had been, landed on or, thrown to. and kind of not knowing who they are because they can't really compare themselves to anything else around them. And so they start seeing like, they start kind of going like, well, this is just normal life, right? Like I just have to fight my way to live every day, right? That everybody does that. And then to the point where
Everyone does that.
I think I'm a little different. I'm not like everybody else, and I think it's cool to see just that, like the almost like snowball into hell, as it were. But rather than snowball melting, it like just grows in ferocity and just gets bigger and bigger and just kind of like overcomes where it is and makes it such a part of its backstory too, which we'll definitely see more about with the line.
The Primarch books are kind of like coming of age tales, but for adults, because there's more violence involved.
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
Disney adaptation when? No.
And I think it's important to note, just speaking of like literary, talking about coming of age stories, but like if you really look at it, and it's throughout 40K all over the place, but there's many references to Shakespeare and Shakespearean, names and stuff like that. So I think it's really cool here that there's going to be a lot of little references, of course, when we talk about Dark Angels, but with Caliban is a fictional character in Shakespeare's The Tempest. And then you even look into The Tempest itself, the Shakespearean work. So there's the name Prospero as well in there. And then when we get into, which Prospero, of course, when we talk about the Thousand Sons and the burning of Prospero. But there's a lot of fun little things here that I hope we can kind of uncover chapter by chapter, and like how these were not only created with the lore from GW, but kind of like where they drew inspiration from, and not just, well, now the model looks like Charles Dance from Game of Thrones, but trying to find the little historical and fictional references that they use to create more fiction, which we are just talking about and chatting about.
I mean,
like I said, history kind of just keeps telling itself over and over and over in different little forms. So
yeah,
different variations.
I always thought of the lion and his knights kind of like what was King Richard the Lion? That's kind of what I always pictured when I heard his name, and that he had a bunch of knights for his honor guard, as it were.
Even the attitude of the Dark Angels feels that way too.
Yeah,
the look and the attitude is very knightly. Of course, Black Templars have that vibe too. That's more Crusader vibe, but yeah, I think you're spot on.
Yeah, that's a little more religious fanatic over King of England.
Yeah, the fanaticism is still there. It's just a different flavor of fanaticism. It's the cherry red
flavor. Yeah. Yeah, all the heraldry and all the knight stuff is so cool. I love Caliban as a setting, and even Caliban just in and of itself as a fantasy world would be killer, and I'd have so much fun in that setting. It's a shame what happens to the planet, but we won't reveal too many secrets yet.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
The Emperor's arrival and the Legion reclaimed. The Lion's destiny shifted irrecoverably. Man, some words just fucking suck. You know it, but you can't say it. With the arrival of the Emperor of Mankind, descending from the stars in a blaze of divine light, the Emperor recognized his son amidst the martial splendor of Caliban. In the Lion, the Emperor saw not only a warrior, but a mind honed for strategy and a soul burdened with almost impenetrable reserve. The Lion, for his part, knelt to the vision of unity the Emperor embodied, and thus the First Legion was reunited with their Primarch. Renamed the Dark Angels, they were warriors of unyielding discipline and unmatched ferocity. And under the Lion's command, they became a spearhead of the Emperor's Great Crusade. Yet even as the Lion took his place among his brother Primarchs, his relationships were marked by distance and mistrust. He was a strategist first, and while his battle plans were flawless, his aloofness fostered whispers of doubt amongst his own sons. He demanded perfection, and though they revered him, they too saw him as distant, a more calculating mind than a father figure. And this is another one of those parallels where, just like how the Emperor went away to do his secret projects, and the Emperor didn't really let anyone close in on what he was up to, the same thing happens with his firstborn son, the Lion, where people kind of mistrust him, or like, what are you up to? And the whole seeds of the Horus Heresy was kind of sown because Horus is like, why did you just leave? You didn't even tell us why. Oh, because you have plans. There's much more that happens, but that's definitely an aspect of it.
Yeah, that gave me flashbacks to when we were recording the Primarch project episode, because that feels like a 1-for-1 copy of what we went over.
For sure, for sure. The Great Crusade and the shadows of the future. The Lion's deeds in the Great Crusade were stuff of legend. He led the Dark Angels into the most treacherous war zones, their campaigns marked by precision, secrecy, and brutal efficiency. Worlds fell to their might, and enemies whispered of the First Legion as an unstoppable force. Yet, for all of his successes, the Lion was an enigma. His methods were cold and detached. His motives were often inscrutable, even to his closest advisors. When brother Primarchs bickered and sought alliances, the Lion stood apart, charting his own path. This solitary nature, though born of focus and strategy, sowed the seeds of distrust that would later haunt him. The Lion always seemed to peer into the shadows of the Imperium's future, aware of the storms brewing even amidst the Crusade's glory. For him, the Great Crusade was not just a conquest, but a preparation, a prelude to the challenges that would not only test his legion's might, but also his inscrutable will.
This feels like the Emperor right here. When you read that, like that sounds very parallel to the Emperor, and just kind of cold, calculating, like focused. It's very black and white. There's not a lot of
singular.
gray. Yeah, singular for sure. So I think this is like when we talk about the kind of mimicry of Lionel Johnson to the Emperor. This, I think, you get a really good picture of him and his father. You know.
Yeah. We talked on the Primarch project episode too, how, it's speculated that each Primarch was custom built for a specific reason. And when you build something for a specific reason, you give it, specific qualities and stuff. So yeah, it very much seems like the Emperor made the Lion directly after himself, where other Primarchs are very clear to see what their intention was. Like Magnus the Red, very clearly supposed to be part of the Webway project. Or, the Alpha Legion, Omegon and Alfarius supposed to be secret agents of sorts. You can kind of see when you put the Lion and the Emperor side by side, it's clear, this is his heir. This is the heir to the Imperium.
Yeah. And just since we've actually named Dark Angels now, just the fun little fact, which most people probably know, and we've probably discussed on previous Lorehammer episodes, but the little cultural and historical reference here, the tie-in between Lion L. Johnson and actual reality, is that Lionel Johnson was a late 19th century English poet who's most notable for writing the poem Dark Angel. So obviously GW being a company out of the UK company, it's fun to see that they've taken their history as well, and their culture, so implementing it into what we're talking about now in nerd culture. So Lionel Johnson, the poet, is now kind of mimicked here, or rather just paid tribute to, with Lion L. Johnson and his Dark Angels. So fun little thing. Most of us like hardcore 40k nerds probably know that, but just fun to mention it anyways.
Yeah, we were talking even on the last episode about the planet Moloch and its kind of ties to Israel and a specific piece of land there. And some people might know though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll see no evil. But go listen to that episode. It was a very cool tie-in. I love these little historical references or tie-ins or little nods. They just add a little bit more depth and meaning. Words have so much power behind them. Even in 40k, if you know somebody's true name as a demon, you got this kind of power over them. It's very intentional. I did a joke episode with Trevor Buzak about High Gothic and how every syllable has to be perfectly enunciated. And it's not just to sound cool. There's a reason behind it. It gives loftiness. It's purpose behind it. And yeah, it's cool seeing just words passed on that already have all this power behind it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know Logan's true name, by the way, too. I will not speak it here because he will disappear, but I know
It's
his.
it's Daddy. Just so we're clear.
Okay. I'll try saying that 3 times in a mirror tonight before bed and see what happens.
No, I have to work tomorrow. I want to go to Panama. Not now.
All right. Let's see here. So now we get into a little bit of the Horus Heresy, which we touched on in the episode talking about the Primarch project, which it feels like everything always kind of comes back to the Horus Heresy because it's such a big origin story or big pinnacle in a lot of the lore that we discuss.
Isn't it like a
yeah, and in this
64 book
coming
saga at this
72
point?
Yeah.
plus like a bunch of short stories and plus like exclusive audio dramas, a bunch of extra stuff like that. Man, one little side tangent before we go on the Horus Heresy. When writing the notes for Primarchs and Legions, I wrote the Legion episode for the Dark Angels. I was shocked how much information there was. There's more information on the Lion and the Dark Angels than there is the entire Tau Empire, than there is the entire Eldar army. Like, it's what's also crazy. There's more 30K information known than there is 40K information known. And that just makes it all fucking crazy, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, it's the big focus though, too, you know, because there's so much that has, I think you can dive into those like time frames. And look, Tau, like, come on. There's not going to be a lot known about the Tau.
How dare you?
The disrespect in this podcast.
Oh, no. Anyways, yeah. It's such a cool time. The Horus Heresy. Oh my gosh. It's parties all around.
That's what we'll call it. The galaxy burning.
Parties all around.
It's a lit party. The galaxy's burning. Fulgrin's got some warp dust. Let's go.
Look, I'm sure there were a bunch of Xenos that are like, well, they're just fighting themselves. I mean, we could probably just hang out and watch. You know,
I think it's
just
more like
keep our head down on this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're hiding around the corner. Like, did you see what he just did to that fleet? Do you think we'll come here next?
Oh, I bet there was like, you know, Xenos races going like, oh shit, there's 2 of them. Here we go. Oh, wait, nope. They're fighting each other. Okay, all right, guys, looking pretty good for tonight. Let's see how this plays out. Anyways, speaking of party time, Horus Heresy, the story continues. The Horus Heresy, a cataclysmic civil war that shattered the Imperium of man, began with a betrayal born of pride, ambition, and the insidious whispers of chaos. At its heart was Horus Lupercal, the Emperor's favored son and war master, who was tasked with leading the Great Crusade to reunite humanity across the stars. However, beneath the veneer of unity and glory, tensions simmered. The Primarchs' genetically engineered demigods were not immune to the flaws of their own making. Jealousy, ambition, and resentment festered among them, exacerbated by the immense expectations placed upon them by their creator, the Emperor. The seeds of rebellion were sown when the Emperor withdrew from the Great Crusade, returning to Terra to undertake a secret project known as the Imperial Webway, or the Webway Project. This withdrawal left Horus in command of the Crusade, but also burdened him with the weight of his brother's conflicting loyalties and rivalries. Many Primarchs felt slighted by the Emperor's perceived favoritism, while others questioned his decisions and motives entirely. Horus himself wrestled with doubt, a vulnerability that the ruinous powers of chaos exploited. Manipulating his insecurities and stoking his ambition, the chaos gods lured Horus into a web of corruption, promising him the power to surpass even the Emperor. I gotta say, it's always so sad, like reading about this stuff because it just gets built up and then just hearing the fall of all of this. Fun little fact. I once took, and you know what? Maybe we'll list it in like some show notes, but I once took a "Which Primarch are you?" personality quiz. I was like, oh, this will be fun. And at the end, I got Horus Lupercal. Like, oh shit.
No.
No.
Okay, I got my eye on you then. If you even flinch at usurping me.
So do we just start calling you the arch traitor every chance we get? Like, how's this work now?
Sure. Or the chosen one.
Oh, that sounds like something Horus would say.
It's just
my favorite.
yes, of course. Oh man, it's so sad. It's so sad. He wrestles with his own doubt and vulnerability, and it just gets taken advantage of with chaos. Sad times. The breaking point came at Davin, the planet, where Horus was gravely wounded and fell under the influence of chaos after undergoing a ritual of, quote, healing orchestrated by the word bearers. From that moment, the War Master's loyalty to the Emperor was replaced with a burning desire for supremacy and vengeance. He believed that the Emperor had betrayed his sons, abandoning them to achieve his own godhood. Blinded by rage and ambition, Horus turned against his father, convincing 9 legions of Astartes, countless mortal soldiers, and mechanicum forces to join him in rebellion. The Horus Heresy was not merely a war of conquest, but a clash of ideologies. Horus proclaimed himself a liberator, casting the Emperor as a tyrant who sought dominion over humanity. His rebellion sought to overthrow the Imperium's rigid order and supplant it with his own vision, one shaped by chaos. However, this vision was a lie, a facade crafted by the chaos gods to spread their influence and devour the galaxy. What began as whispers of dissent erupted into all-out war. Brother turned against brother, and the legions that once fought side by side now waged bitter battles against one another. The galaxy was engulfed in bloodshed, and the ideals of unity and hope that once defined the Great Crusade were God damn, this is so powerful. It's happening again. I'm getting so flustered reading it. It's so good.
You can get through this. I believe
So
in you.
emotional.
You can get through this,
God.
buddy.
I know. It's so sad, and I love it. The galaxy was engulfed in bloodshed, and the ideals of unity and hope that once defined the Great Crusade were consumed by betrayal, destruction, and despair. The Horus Heresy was not just a rebellion, it was the breaking of the Emperor's dream and the beginning of a long, slow descent into the grim darkness of the far future. Oh, I want to put that as my voicemail. Oh my gosh. So good.
If you leave a message, you're gonna go into a slow descent of the grim darkness.
That's
yeah,
right.
man. Like, it's not just a betrayal. Like, it's a future that could have been broken for all time, and now we'll never get that bright and glorious future that the Emperor wanted. There's a funny setting. It's an alternative setting called Bright Hammer, where it's basically instead of the grim dark, you got the noble bright, and it's a happy place, one of prosperity and growth. And we could have had that, but no, forces of chaos had to kind of get their little tendrils in. But man, it speaks to, I think, human nature at its core. Utopia can never actually be achieved. Like, we can try as best as we want with humans, but we're always going to ultimately break it down and end up fighting each other. As long as we stay as long as there's individuality, I suppose. Eventually we're all going to get Elon Musk's brain chip, and then we'll see what happens to humanity. But till then, utopia will not be achieved, whether in fantasy or real life.
The flesh is weak.
From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh, it disgusted me.
I don't like that voice at all. My God.
Have you not seen that? The flesh is weak. Have you not seen that? There's a video that's been going around. They put a snake in a clear plastic tube and gave it mechanical legs.
Nope. Nope.
Then
nope. That's a hard no for me, brother.
Overlaid with that is the mechanicum speech. From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh, it disgusted me. It's just the snake walking around in the machine and people watching it.
Is it a lizard? Is it a snake? Or is it an abomination? Hard to say.
It's my nightmare for the night. Thanks, guys.
I'll send you the link later. Don't worry.
No.
Yes.
Don't worry. You can summon Logan into your room with a mirror, and he can keep you safe all night. The snakes won't. The snakes with legs won't get you.
I'm just gonna have to use Logan's body pillow collection.
I was gonna say I'll bring the body pillows so you can feel nice and safe.
Oh man. All right. Well, cruising forward. What do you got?
I was going to say, Aiden said he posted that exact meme in the 40K chat, probably on the Discord. So you can go find it.
It's there.
It's there.
For all
man.
time.
Stoic and unrelenting, the dark angels of the Horus Heresy stood as a legion apart, technologically advanced, ruthlessly efficient, and steeped in an insular autonomy. They were a force accustomed to waging large-scale campaigns and compliance actions with little need for outside support, their independence both a strength and a shroud of mystery. It was this fearsome reputation that drove the War Master Horus to enact his schemes with precision. Knowing the weight of the First Legion's intervention could shift the tides of war, he orchestrated their deployment to the farthest reaches of the Imperium. There, at the edge of the galaxy, the Dark Angels would be held at bay, unable to thwart his treachery, at least for a time. Yet, as the heresy unfolded, the full might of the Dark Angels could not be denied. They tore through their traitors. They tore through the traitors with relentless fury, a harbinger of the devastation to come. In the later years of the heresy, their wrath would escalate to unparalleled heights as they laid waste to traitor worlds in the southern galactic zone, leaving only destruction in their wake. Yeah, sounds, man, when you've got the lion, like we talked about, his characteristics being like singular, focused, just kind of no gray, black and white, and now you've got this schism where you're either one or the other. You are either loyal or you're a heretic, and obviously Lionel Johnson is loyal. There's no gray area. Boom, we're going.
There's
and
no
we're gonna
sitting on the
now.
sideline on this one.
Nope.
Yeah. It's cool too about like how much power and renown the lion has, where even Horus is like, you know what, we need to get rid of this guy, but not through war. Let's send him away. Like, let's put him as far away from us as possible and hope he never gets to us, because if he does, we're all in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, there's a reverence there, I think. I mean, they're brothers, Horus and the lion are brothers. So, who knows your weaknesses better than your family, and who knows your strengths better than your family, I think, at times too. So it's like you said, we don't really, I don't want to say stand a chance, but like, he will be a huge problem for us. So we need to get him the fuck away, because we just can't take him on.
Yeah.
I'm not far enough into the Siege of Terra yet, but I think he did the same thing with Guilliman, which is funny because they're the two primarchs we have in 40K right now that are loyal. They're both such powerhouses as statesmen and as strategists, so it's just cool to see that.
Yeah, and he sent them away for like very different purposes. Like the Ultramarines and Reboot Guilliman were kind of sent away, is maybe not the right word, but kind of sequestered, because their legion was just so big.
Massive,
there's just so many of them. It's like, how do you deal with that many? Even if all things are considered equal, even if for every there's a 1 to 10 ratio or whatever, or 9 to 10 ratio of guys, like there's just so many Ultramarines that you can't really deal with them. So yeah, send them away. Well, I forgot what else I was going to say about that. Maybe it'll come back to me. Maybe it's gone forever.
Sorry.
No, life goes on, but not that memory, that idea.
It's gone forever.
Did it even ever exist is the question.
Hard to say.
Let's get philosophical, guys. Philosophical. Bleh. However that was going, and then I fumbled.
Yes. Let us get philosophical. Yes. So when going into the Horus Heresy, there, we got a pretty big timeline there. We kind of got an overview of what happened, what started. We're going to jump into some specific things that the Lion and his Legion happened to them during the Horus Heresy. As we said, they were kind of sent away to the farthest reaches, kind of adios. Oh, I remembered what I was going to say. The Lion was one of 3 people that was going to be that were up for the War Master position. It was the Lion, Horus, and Sanguinius. Just another kind of nod to like his formidability, the trust that the Emperor put in him, and all that kind of stuff.
That's definitely worth mentioning. Yeah. Because I think that we've described how cool he is, but that kind of really puts him up on a different level.
Yeah,
I
and like the other
remember-
thing, just to kind of really show what he is capable of, he had the most compliances in the Great Crusade. You know, we talked about it on the first episode. Like, what does that really mean? And they give that title to a bunch of different people. Like, did he comply the worlds through violence? Does that count? Or was it like Reboot Guilliman when he complied a world? Yeah, there was violence, but then he rebuilt. So, you know, the ranking becomes very weird, but he's up in the ranking of like one of the greatest assets of the Great Crusade, bringing the most worlds into the fold.
Yeah, I always thought, and someone said it in the chat, that a lot of even his brothers were upset that Horus got it over the Lion because they thought the Lion would be a better war master than Horus.
Yeah, like the Horus, he has charisma, you know, and I don't know if that's what you want from your war master, you know, like there's a different spot for that. That's almost not fully a statesman, but like a leader is good in the battlefield, but you know, you want a strategist over a guy with fancy words and people just want to follow. You know, you need both for sure. But
I don't know. I can play in devil's advocate. I can see charisma being helpful for a war master because there are worlds you can bring into compliance without violence just by being, hey, I've toppled all these worlds and I can help you if you work with me, and you don't have to be one of the toppled worlds.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
How often does that happen, though?
I don't know.
You
I would
tell me,
assume
we'll
if
ask you.
I would assume if Horus is laying waste to dozens of worlds, he could manipulate some. I mean, he manipulated 8 of his brothers to join him. I'm sure he could manipulate worlds into coming under him without having to deploy his legion to take care of it.
Yeah, you know, there's better ones though in my mind for being like charismatic or like having that aura around them, like Sanguinius. You know, you put him down, like a literal angel of mythos now stands before you. Like, you just want to follow that guy, not this bald-headed guy with a fucking tube coming out of his nose.
The tube wasn't until he fell to chaos.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, you sure he
I'm
wasn't
pretty
just
sure.
sticking that in at nighttime? It was like the nasal spray or something.
Horus had
That's
a
right.
CPAP machine.
Hard to say. Hard to say what he was up to with that wire.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh man, nope. Low hanging fruit
But
joke. Nope, not going to call it.
Say it.
Horus Heresy. We're reaching new levels of low here, baby.
I love it.
It'll go lower.
All right. Well, let's jump into some of the incidents, we'll call them.
Yeah.
That happened during the Horus Heresy.
Yeah, so we'll start with the suppression of the Gordian League. In the 200th year of the Great Crusade, oh, I hate numbers, 998.M30, the Dark Angels were engaged in a grueling Imperial compliance campaign against the shield worlds of the Gordian League, a defiant confederation of human worlds tainted with their alliance with degenerate Xenos, not just Xenos, degenerate ones. This campaign, spanning 7 Terran years, was a test of the Legion's resolve and tactical brilliance, a theater of war where the shadow of treachery loomed unseen.
Okay.
Kind of sounds like a hive world, where what were you going to say, Court?
No, I was just go for it, and then I've got a little bit of like, okay, we're bringing more historical, cultural references in. So please go for it.
No, I was thinking like more low scale. When you think of the Hive World and Necromunda settings, there's treachery everywhere. There's gene stealer cults everywhere. There's that type of stuff you have to deal with. Now I'm thinking like a macro scale, like this world works, but this world might not. And this world has human looking Xenos, and this one they're doing stuff with Xenos. So it's just, it's like the Hive World Necromunda setting, but spread across the galaxy is just kind of neat to think about.
Now, when you say doing stuff with Xenos, is that why they were considered a degenerate?
That's what I
want to
that's
clarify.
They're your notes, dude. That's what I thought you meant when you wrote that.
Writing in setups for punchlines. Clever Mark.
Well, looking at the Gordian League, right? So Gordian, just kind of an interesting word, and then looking it up, I'm like, I'm interested about that. So it's funny because the Gordian knot is something referenced with Shakespeare once again. And is also tied with Alexander the Great in Gordium. And so there's in Act 1, Scene 1 here of Henry V, which again, Shakespearean, it says, turn
We all
him yeah,
know that one. We all know it
please
off by heart. Come on.
open your Shakespeare to Act 1, Scene 1. Here we go, of Henry V. 45 through 47. But it says, turn him to any cause of policy. The Gordian knot of it he will unloose, familiar as his garter. So the Gordian knot is kind of this a complex knot tied to an ox cart. It's this, whoever could untie it would be destined to rule all of Asia kind of thing. So once again, we're seeing some really cool literary references. And again, namely Shakespeare, of course, GW, English Company, Shakespeare, most notable English writer of all time. So very cool to see, even just in mention of like, here's something cool that happened with Lionel Johnson. We're going to throw a name that has meaning to it. So boom.
Yeah.
That is cool.
There's also a metallic paint called after it. That's what I can contribute.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right.
No, yeah. I recognize the word. I'm like, I don't remember where Gordian comes from, but it'll come to me. And then you said not. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember now. I remember. All right. So it was in 005.M31 amidst the prolonged conflict that the Dark Angels High Command received news that would shatter the fragile unity of the Imperium. The War Master Horus, once the Emperor's chosen son, had renounced his allegiance, and with him stood Angron's World Eaters, Mortarion's Death Guard, Fulgrim's Emperor's Children. And Fulgrim's Emperor's Children. The revelation of Horus's betrayal came with the horror of Istvan III, where loyalist Astartes and the traitor legions were eradicated in a virus bombing that rendered the world a lifeless husk. This atrocity was both a declaration of rebellion and a calculated move to eliminate any resistance from within. Lionel Johnson, ever the strategist, saw the hand of the War Master even in the Dark Angel's own deployment. He understood that their campaign in the Shield World, ordered by Horus himself, was no coincidence. It was a deliberate attempt to scatter the Imperium's most steadfast legions to the furthest reach of the galaxy, ensuring they could not stand united against the War Master's rising tides of rebellion. Despite Horus's machinations, the Emperor's response was swift and devastating. 7 legions were mobilized, their path set towards the Istvan system to confront the War Master, his traitor forces on Istvan V. This gathering storm posed a dire threat to Horus's ambition. The combined might of these legions representing a critical test of his rebellion survival. Yet, even as these events unfolded, the Lion and his Dark Angels remained bound by duty and purpose, poised to act decisively when their moment demanded it.
I can just imagine the Lion's realization. Like, he's probably one of the most strategic minds in the entire galaxy, and he's just doing this conquest over in the Shield worlds in the Gordian League or whatever, and then he gets word of this event, the Istvan III virus bombing, and it all clicks just instantly. He's like, oh shit, I knew I shouldn't have been here. I had this feeling that why am I here doing this? And then it all comes together for him, and he's just like, yeah.
I kind of
there's really cool moments in that with the novels too. I mean, that's such a pivotal moment for everybody. It's the like, I don't know, it's like the straw on the camel's back that just kind of, and it just destroys everything. It's wild.
Yeah.
So sorry, Logan, you were saying.
Oh no, I was just saying it kind of reminds me of like a detective movie, something like Seven or something, where all the pieces start to click and fall into place. The Lion's just standing there looking at what his legion's doing, fighting this uphill battle against a very difficult system far away from Terra. And it's like Horus is rebelling, and he's just like, like it's all just it's all just falling in place. And then it's like he's duty bound, so it's like I have to finish what I'm doing, and I'm too far away to help right now. But it's just like, how did I miss this? Just slapping his forehead kind of thing.
It's I'm not spoiling anything here, but well, maybe I am, but it's definitely the usual suspects moment at the end like everything just comes together. And have you ever seen it? Tell me you've seen it.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I'm laughing because it's like spoiler. It's like, you mean the meme, the ending?
Well,
That's a
if you haven't
meme.
seen it by now, it's your fault. It's so good. Yes, it definitely kind of feels that way. And I love your 7 reference too, because I was definitely watching a like a breakdown of all the different really cool hidden Easter egg things that David Fincher, the insane, amazing director that he is, throws into 7. I was watching that this week. So
Such a good movie.
anyway. Is that double nerding? Is that double? I think we're double nerding at this point.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if that is nerding or if that is just like
I can make
modern
it nerding.
media, you know?
Yeah.
The Batman was took heavy inspiration from 7. So
Oh,
there
for
you
sure.
go.
Yeah.
There's
Oh yeah.
and in the
And
Batman there,
Conrad Kurz took
Yeah.
heavy inspiration from the Batman.
Perfect. We tied it
go.
back.
Back to
We
40K.
tied it back.
Full circle, baby.
But that
All right.
that did happen in the Batman too, where everything fell into place and he realized
Mhm.
everything the Riddler had set up. He's like, so
Yeah.
yeah, we've got
Oh.
nerdception going on. Thanks, chat. We brought it all circle back.
Nerdception. The next battle that the Lion and the Dark Angels took part of was the Battle of Tiamat. In the 200th year of the Great Crusade, the Dark Angels found themselves deeply entrenched in their campaign against the shield worlds of the Gordian League. Unable to respond quickly to the growing shadow of Horus's rebellion, the Primarch's advisors estimated that it would take nearly 8 solar months to disengage from their operations and redeploy to strike at Esteban 5. Even if they could hasten their pace, Horus's agents would surely alert the War Master in time to mount a counteroffensive. Recognizing this, the Lion turned to precision rather than brute force. A small handpicked force, he reasoned, might achieve what an entire legion could not. Issuing his orders, Lionel Johnson dispatched reserve squadrons to resupply and prepare for immediate deployment to the Tangera system. Their mission was to secure the forge world of Tiamat, a vital linchpin in Horus's plan. Tiamat's depot was held vast reserves of supply and ordnance, including the formidable Ornatai, continental siege machines capable of breaking the strongest fortifications. Such weapons of the in the War Master's hands could tip the balance of war, enabling Horus to fortify Esteban 5 against the approaching loyalist strike force. With secrecy paramount, Lionel Johnson led a group of 15 warships, knowing well that Horus's spy would be tracking their movements. Ornatai are sweet. Ornatus weapons are just cool what they are. Each one is like this unique creation with a very specific purpose in mind. So yeah, sure, some of them, a lot of them are just tracks with a giant fucking cannon on it, and its purpose and uniqueness is to blow up a city. But some of them are very unique, where that city's walls you can't blow them up. So it's like a tunneling Ornatus weapon, or, you know, they're just very unique, one-of-a-kind weapons. They're super cool.
Yeah, I was looking them up because I'd never heard this word before and seen it, and it's a Forge World model, and they even had like old school models too. But you're right. It's literally like they just sat down, like, okay, well, we need a big gun. Like, okay, no, we need a big fucking gun, man. Okay, so what do we do? Like, well, we got tanks. It's not good enough. That's only like
I said a big fucking gun.
Give me 2 giant tanks worth of treads, and then throw the biggest like cannon you've ever seen on it. That'll do. Okay, cool. Yep.
Yeah.
That's basically
and
it.
even you mentioned there's an actual model for these. There are bigger versions that would be impossible to make models for because of their sheer scale and size. Where think of a fucking Starship Nova cannon now attached onto one of these, like a kilometer wide or long cannon now slapped on a bunch of tracks or whatever. Like I said, there's Ordinatai and then there's Ordinatuses, and they're similar but slightly different. The Ordinatai are like kind of that Forge World, smaller, still massive, still capable of blowing holes in Titans and cities and stuff, but then they got that step up level.
Yeah.
I'm picturing kind of like the real world equivalent, the Gustav cannon that the Germans had. I think it was in World War II, but it was like, I don't remember how big it was, but it's a bunch of train cars just lined up on the tracks and this giant barrel that looks like a skyscraper. It's insane.
Yeah. Have either of you guys read or specifically watched the Hell's Reach animation on YouTube?
Yes.
I think I got
Yeah,
halfway through it and it's something happened and I didn't get to finish it and never went back because I'm
Oh,
silly.
well, that's definitely, if you die tonight, that would be on the list of things you would regret not watching. Like, you'd be
Oh,
like,
absolutely,
fuck,
yeah.
why didn't I?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
like
re-
whatever god there is in the afterlife would judge you for not watching it and finishing it.
He's like, Logan, everything looks pretty good here. You oh, hang on.
You
You
didn't
did
watch
not
the
finish
Charitable
what you-
donations, check.
You didn't watch the YouTube video about the hereticals, or not the heretical, the religious fanatic super soldiers. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Let's put him in room B, okay?
And B.
Yeah,
It's
for
funny
sure.
'cause
That will happen.
that YouTube video, that series, it's every time I see Grimaldus, who's one of our awesome patrons on Patreon, like in the chat, I see his name, I always think Grimaldus, just the way they say it.
Yeah.
Grimaldus.
Let that be the last blow that goes unanswered. Yeah, man. Well, in that series, there is an Ordinatus weapon, and that's like a linchpin in Armageddon and all that. So very cool, these things.
The
Carrying on. So Lionel Johnson thought they were pretty cool too.
Yeah, and before we move on, there's one other parallel that's not going to come up for a lot of episodes because it's with Corax, because we're talking about parallels with the Lion and the Emperor. After the shattering of Raven Guard and other legions, Corax was forced out into the Outer Rims, and his mission became, I can't fight in Terra, I can't do this, but I can disrupt supply lines, and I can take Forge Worlds. So he would take 6 Astartes and go take a Forge World out of Horus's grap and move on from there. So seeing this, it's cool that the Lion Master Tactician is doing something that one of his other brothers did with similar number of resources, like low count, low Astartes, secretive, let's take a Forge World. And that's just, I think that's cool to see when the brothers are similar.
I think too, it
Also-
shows just how powerful Astartes actually are, especially
yeah.
back in 30K when they had all this super rare technology, and especially when they had a Primarch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think talk videos, go watch Astartes. There it is. It's just a few dudes, a few space marines kicking ass. Just real quick. So I may do this throughout most of the episode, but again, cool words have meaning. So when we look at the Forge World of Diamat or Diamat, what is that? Oh, what is it actually? So
I know it's a D&D term.
Is it really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's something in D&D. I'll look it up, but you keep going and
Well,
I'll look up mine. We're reference on reference here for you.
Yeah, we're gonna philosophize, as Logan was saying. We're gonna get philosophical here. So it refers to dialectical materialism. Yep, I'm gonna say it again. So diamat is a shortened term for dialectical materialism, which is a theory based on the writings of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. So it goes into a little bit of the communism philosophy and things like that, but it's a huge Wikipedia page. You can get lost in it. It's wild, but and the mention of Marxism and everything. But another cool planet name has meaning. Here we go. So
yeah,
I want
call
to
like a Forge World that would very much be communist. You got all of these slaves just making weapons. Everyone's kind of treated the same, and ultimately their purpose is to just produce.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think it's notable to it's definitely worth mentioning and shouting out, like, the writers back in the early days of GW who have stuck with GW for the longest time and then branched out as well. But like, you got guys like Tomas Pirinen, and you've got Gav Thorpe, and you've got all these now I'm blanking on names, but they drew from what was cool and what they knew, and maybe it's even just like, oh, this is a fun word and we're just going to make this into the thing, but it has historical references. So here we go once again, historical references. Boom.
Yeah. I was a dumb bitch though, and it's not Diamat in Dungeons and Dragons, it's Tiamat, and that's the Queen of the Dragons, and that has nothing to do with anything I think of what we're talking about. But sure,
that's double nerding. That's double nerding.
Oh, we did it.
We did it, guys. We did it.
And only 54 minutes in. Like,
hey, man.
not our best time, but we got there.
It's natural. We got to get there naturally.
That's
Star Trek. Arriving in the Tangara system just 5 days after the destruction of Horus landing force at the Xanathus starport, L. Johnson's fleet swiftly claimed victory. With no means to secure the siege engines from the Dark Angels, the raiding fleet's admiral had no choice but to retreat to Istvan. The War Master's gambit to fortify his position had failed. Following this success, L. Johnson met with his brother, Portorabo of the Iron Warriors, aboard the Invincible Reason. Portorabo revealed that the 4th Legion was en route to confront Horus at Istvan V, alongside Ferrus Manus and the Iron Hands, who were sought vengeance for the Emperor. Portorabo, however, concealed his true allegiance, masking his intent behind carefully chosen words. As they spoke, Portorabo inquired how the Lion had discovered the existence of the Ornati. L. Johnson recounted his discovery 50 Terran years earlier during the study of the Crusade records. Horus had originally commissioned the siege engines for the Tethonius campaign, but delays in their construction saw them stored on Diamet, forgotten until the War Master's rebellion. L. Johnson, foreseeing the inevitability of the siege on Terra, acted to deny Horus of these machines. Yet his actions were not without conflict. Confiding in Portorabo, the Lion admitted to feelings of jealousy, believing that the fate alone had made Horus the Emperor's favored son. He wondered if, had he been the first Primarch found, the title War Master might have been his. Yeah, that's so interesting. I even said it at the beginning of the episode, like, if the Primarchs weren't scattered, or if Lionel Johnson was found first, there's no way he wouldn't have been the favorite son. He's just so much like the Emperor, both in character and also that story arc that just repeats itself over and over from father to son.
Yeah. And do you think too, like, so there's the meeting between him and Portorabo, and you get brother and brother kind of communicating. Like, how tense do you think these initial, like, I'll say post heresy, in the sense that, like, the drop site massacre had occurred, all these things, like the knowledge that there is heresy being partied, happened, whatnot. Do you think that, like, these meetings were so very, like, tense and kind of like spaghetti western, where it's like you've got your hand next to your bolter a little bit, and just and almost even just emotionally and mentally withdrawn? And even though, you know, this ultimately was good, but between the Lion and Portorabo, these meetings and discussions kind of, I bet there's a lot of tension behind this, and wondering, like, are you actually with us? What's going on here?
Yeah.
I remember in some of the short stories from the heresy that did happen, where two salamanders and Raven Guard would bump into each other. They'd be like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Or actually, even more specifically, there was one where the Space Wolves, Leman Russ, started dispatching wolf packs to the other Primarchs to watch his brothers, because he wasn't sure which ones were loyal and which ones were traitor or not. So Corax had to deal with this wolf pack that was just standing there staring at him, and everybody's on super edge, like, is Russ cool? Are you cool? And the Space Wolves are like, you guys good? Or do we need to do something about this? It's just such a crazy dynamic when you get into the nitty or gritty or smaller stories.
Yeah, I almost even look at it, you know, I'm not saying I'm right, but a slightly different way of the whole Horus Heresy was this unspeakable event. And I wonder if a lot of the Primarchs at this stage, yes, later on, everyone's suspicious, but at this stage, it's like, who else is traitor? Or did the Emperor, or did Horus have his like 4 legions with him? And everyone else at this point was like, well, if anyone else was to turn, they would have turned with him right off the bat. Like, would they have been super nervous, or they're like, okay, Portorabo's here, like, he's a confidant. Like, I feel like Lionel Johnson doesn't really ever confide in people, especially with feelings. So to confide in Portorabo, like, man, I'm kind of, fuck that guy. He ruined it all, and I should have been War Master. I don't even know if he would have had an inkling of the true betrayal that is about to happen.
I think when you think about it too, like, if you have let's say you have a ton of siblings, what's more realistic, that half of them are trying to kill you, or that one tricked a small handful of others into doing the same bad act?
Yeah,
like, that would
you
be
would think you would want to, like, when you spring your trap, you would want it to be like the full trap, not just your half trap. But, you know, Horus has many different traps along the way. Yeah, because I just almost picture the Lion not even really, you know, he still guards everything. That's his nature, that's his personality. But, like, also, this is one of the few times where he actually opens up to somebody emotionally. And it's like, man, I was jealous of that shit. Like, I don't think he's seen the full extent of the heresy.
Well, he's also like probably in his feelings a lot right now because he's been betrayed. His father's been betrayed. Legions are being slaughtered, and there's nothing he can do about it. I'm sure he feels a little stupid because of how far out in the galaxy he is. And then his brother shows up. He's like, "Yo, did you hear what he did? That's crazy, man. So why wouldn't you?" Like,
I would never do that.
Yeah, I would never. Can you imagine? Like, if you're in your feelings and someone's like, "Dude, that guy's messed up," you'd be like, "Dude, I know. Like, just I can't. It should have been me."
Yeah.
You know, like it tracks for me
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Two brothers reached an accord. The two brothers, Portarabo and El Johnson. El Johnson allowed the Iron Warriors to take possession of the Ordinati on the condition that they would be used for the Imperium's benefit. Promise me you're not going to turn traitor either, Portarabo.
Pinky swear.
Don't turn this around and point it at us now.
Portarabo gave his word, though his loyalty had already shifted to Horus. The Lion, the ever-strategist, made haste to the Shield World, preparing his legion for the trials to come, unaware of Portarabo's duplicity and the tragedy that would unfold at the drop site massacre. His actions at Diamat were not for glory but for duty, and an effort to uphold the Imperium, even as the galaxy trembled at the precipice of ruin.
Man. Yeah, and you're right. Like I goofed earlier saying like the drop site massacre had happened and we're doing this stuff, but you're right. The full like spectacle of the heresy, the full like kind of fallout really hasn't happened yet. So it becomes once again like all the more sad and depressing and grimdark. Yeah. And it's awesome. It's so good.
Yeah. In older lore, it was pretty interesting how they kind of played this out before the novels were kind of written and expanded upon. Like, oftentimes, this was one of those events where the Lionel Johnson, no one knew if he was like a traitor or not during the heresy. Like, he was kind of out in the galaxy. He didn't really take part in a lot of the big events. And he was kind of isolated, and lots of people thought that like he was waiting to see what would happen at the siege of Terra before he kind of got invested in a side, or kind of see who actually would have the upper hand before coming out. And this was one of those events that they kind of pointed to where it's like, well, look, he kind of helped out here, or well, look, he's kind of doing this over here. Just with the duplicitous nature of the Dark Angels and Lion, and just like how everything's shrouded in mystery, and lots of people would be like, man, was it Luther who was right this whole time? Did the Lion fall and Luther tried to put a stop to it? It was all these fun kind of conversations that we used to have about the true nature of the Lion's loyalties.
Yeah. There's I almost hesitate making the reference, but just because of the historical connotations, but if you've ever seen, it's a fantastic movie, Valkyrie with Conrad Tom Cruise, and but it's about one of the last known, and maybe the last known, assassination attempts on Hitler during World War II. But it feels, if you watch it, it's beautiful movie. But if you watch it kind of with 40K eyes, you can kind of see this like the dissension and the sides being chosen, like you said, Mark, like almost watching like and there's a line in the movie that says like something like, whenever this ends, we better be on the right side of this. Like there's probably a lot of like, not necessarily like we need to follow who's going to win this because these are primarchs, they're going to go by what they believe in and whatnot. But there's probably a lot of, oh shit, who's doing what now, and where are we, and who's loyal, and hang on, let's not act too rashly here, guys. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
Wild tangent, but has that feel during a few scenes.
Well, I'm going to expand on that a little bit, because a lot of their thoughts were, when they were trying to assassinate him, was we need to do this for Germany. We need to do this to save it. How many of the traitor primarchs were like, no, this is for the good of the Imperium. The Emperor is wrong. We need to undo this evil. So it's, more parallels to that it's just Some of them were doing it for the galaxy, some were doing it out of jealousy, some were defending the galaxy, some were defending their father. There's just so many lines in the sand and twists
Yeah,
and
and
turns that were drawn.
the fog of war makes it all just like hazy, man.
Oh yeah, especially like you said, 8 months to recall and remobilize a legion. Can you imagine like in a modern day conflict spending 8 months to prepare and mobilize something or pull something out of a country? That's just bonkers.
Yeah, but
Joe Biden can do it in a day.
Time to
Leaves it
them
all behind,
is not that relevant, you know.
True, but like on the macro scale, yeah, it doesn't really matter that much, but it just gives you a sense of scale for what's going on.
Yeah, and
Like,
then
it's
just
gonna-
even to add to that sense of scale, like the Horus Heresy only lasted like 7 years or something like that. I should double check. Was it? I think it might have changed, but I think it was only 7 years, something very quick. So like if we're talking 8 months, that's almost 1/7 of the whole heresy. They were tied up, completely tied up and unable to do anything.
That's actually it was 9 Terran years.
Mm.
So yeah, so 9 Terran. So this is only
So I
this
lied
thing
to you.
that you did. It hurt my feelings, but this thing, this one event, like we're talking 8 months to recall a legion to redeploy it. This blip in the 10,000 years we have of lore, or however much between, I don't know, whenever the timeline started with the Emperor and where 40K is now today, a blip caused all this stuff to happen, which is just wild.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. I also want to go back and feel like I retract my Valkyrie statement. We made some really weird parallels, Logan, with like
it's too late.
No, it's too late.
It's out there. Did I hear you say you liked Hitler? Is that what you
like,
said?
Oh my god!
I heard like Logan was like saying, "Yeah, heresy." Basically, what I heard you say was like, "Yeah, heresy is good." I was like, "Hold up."
That is not what I said. I was saying if you look at it for the
I know what
you're
you're. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
We're trying to make this an alt-right podcast. We are not part of the alt-right.
No, what?
I know.
Alt retarded, maybe, but hard to say.
It's a very apolitical
Hard to
podcast.
say.
Artistic.
Just nerds be nerding. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, we're all just making jokes. I always like to clarify that, just for Lorehammer Legal's sake. We're just joking around, trying to make each other laugh.
I mean, we are, and Warhammer itself is a setting based on mocking fascist governments. So it's very easily to draw a parallel between this fictional fascist government and a real fascist government. Like there's parallels there.
And even getting into the fun parallels of when these things were written. So speaking of writing, just to give credit where credit is due, the first Dark Angels Codex was written by Rick Priestley and Jervis Johnson, two huge names when it comes to 40K and all that, and even fantasy. But during the time, a lot of these early GW times, it was the Margaret Thatcher era of England.
Oh yeah.
Which again, if we do the whole orc thing, of course, Margaret Thatcher, we go into Gazgul, Mega Urk Thraka, Margaret Thatcher. Anyways, more parallel
orc episode. Wog.
Anyway, is this me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we're just so down in this spiral. I love it. It's rad. Oh man. Then as I'm reading this, I'm going to task you, Logan, to look up, because here's another cool word, Thramas. I'm going to bet you that I'm going to bet you a slap on the face and a little goatee beard tug that has some sort of historical connotation. Deal?
The first 12 links are all related to the Thramas Crusade.
Yeah, we'll find the 13th one. Here we go. The Thramas Crusade. Following the drop site massacre, Horus convened a war council aboard his flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. 8 primarchs of the traitor legions were summoned, though Alfarius of the Alpha Legion was notably absent. 5 attended in person: Horus, Fulgrim, Angron, Mortarion, and Lorgar, while Perturabo, Conrad Kurz, and Magnus the Red participated via hololithic projection. Magnus had recently pledged his allegiance to Horus after the Scouring of Prospero, during which Tzeentch transported the scattered remains of the Thousand Sons Legion to the Eye of Terror. Consumed by bitterness toward the Emperor, Magnus and his legion became the 9th Legion to join Horus's rebellion. During this council, the traitor primarchs coordinated the next phase of their campaign. Each legion was assigned a strategic objective, with Horus setting the stage for the eventual assault on Terra. In 007.M31, Conrad Kurz, the Night Haunter, so cool, led his Night Lords fleet to Sagul. Oh man, we're gonna get this. Sagualsa.
Yeah.
I think it's Salsa. Sagualsa. There it is.
Salsa.
To the planet of salsa.
Planet of salsa with the chips.
Sagualsa. Got it. Here we go. Sagualsa, a desolate world hidden in the eastern fringe. From there, his legion launched a terror campaign against the imperial systems of Heraldar and Thramas. These assaults were crucial to secure the War Master's flanks and delay reinforcements from the Dark Angels. The Thramas system, home to several Mechanicum Forge worlds loyal to the Emperor, became a focal point of the conflict. The resulting Thramas crusade dragged on for nearly 3 years, a brutal and bitterly contested campaign. During this time, the Night Haunter, Conrad Kurz, sought to lure Lionel Johnson, Primarch of the Dark Angels, into a trap. A deep void beacon was planted in the patrol path of a Dark Angels vessel, transmitting coordinates for a supposed parlay on Salsa. Sagualsa. Got it. Nailed it. Kurz aimed to break Lionel Johnson mentally or physically or both. Boom. The trap has been set.
Just imagine how foolish Conrad Kurz is, though, to try to fuck with the lion. That's all I want to say. Pretty silly thing to do, man. That guy has some war gear. Pretty ballsy.
Pretty arrogant. Yeah, we talked about knowing every Primarch has their strength, and like, you know the strengths of your brothers because you kind of have to rely upon them and know what they're capable of. The fact that Conrad Kurz goes, no, I'm going to try and trick and trap the lion. I don't want him to say was a mistake, but Conrad Kurz is dead. So how
Gambled and lost.
Yeah. Well, risk it for the biscuit.
Yeah. Speaking of risking it for the biscuit, I got to the end of the Google results. So I went until there are no more things to click to keep going.
Oh my gosh. Come on.
It is a 40K only term. They made this term up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if you spell it backwards,
oh my god,
then all right, you win.
That's its true meaning.
That's its true. And if you write it in blood in your mirror at 3 a.m., the War Master appears.
That's right.
So what happens when they meet?
All right. So at the meeting, each Primarch was accompanied by 2 members of their personal honor guards. What began as a tense but civil exchange quickly devolved when Kurz slandered L. Johnson, prompting the lion to strike his brother. Bam! A vicious melee ensued, culminating in Kurz nearly strangling L. Johnson. Talk about a family feud right now. Fucking A. Oh my gosh.
Your father was a drug slubber. Hey, that's your father too.
And then just like fighting. If you guys have, if anybody has brothers, like I feel like this is just kind of that. No, you know what this is, and you know what we need. We need the front yard fight scene from Step Brothers, where it's the 2 of them fighting.
Oh,
but
God,
I need Conrad Kurz's face on one, and I need Lion L. Johnson on the other. Boom, that's it. Somebody make it happen.
Which one's which though? Because that's kind of important. Is the lion Will Ferrell?
I think the lion is
who wins that one.
No. No, the lion is not Will Ferrell. The lion is John C. Reilly, I think.
Now I have to
Chat,
watch
flip
that
that.
movie tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And Emily go watch Step Brothers with the eyes that the lion is John C. Reilly and Conrad Kurz is Will Ferrell.
New lore.
New lore.
For the
Oh,
Disney adaptation, we'll hire them.
perfect. So the intervention of a Dark Angel's honor guardsman breaking up this fight, who drove his sword into the Night Haunter's back, saved the lion's life. Reinforcements from both legions arrived, ending the brawl and dragging their wounded primarchs away. Though both survived, the confrontation deepened the enmity between them, fueling the brutal struggle for control of the Aegis subsector.
How do we feel about this little brawl? I feel like, I made the joke, like, why would Cruz think he could even stand a chance against the lion? But he actually was doing pretty good. And if I would guess he didn't get stabbed in the back by a Dark Angel, could have came out on top. When I picture greatest warriors, I don't picture Cruz even in the top 10. Where I definitely pick L. Johnson in the top 3. For sure, the top 5. A master swordsman, a strategist, so you're not like outthinking him. Was he just baited so much by like this insult? Maybe somebody in the chat who's read this book can put me in my place on how this interaction really played out, because I just don't see them on a comparable level at all.
I think also it's kind of drawing upon that idea that like a fight isn't won by the strongest or the fastest. It could be won by the one who wants it the most and who has the most passion, and which I don't encourage anybody just to go out there and fight and try and prove this theory right or wrong. But it kind of speaks to the
Warhammer
chaos.
Fight Club.
Don't talk about it.
Oh, sorry.
It kind of speaks to the idea that like chaos is changing these guys' emotions and minds. And if the warp is the warp is an ocean, but it is emotion, ocean,
An ocean of emotion.
But
Oh my
but
God.
it pushes these guys to do things they probably wouldn't normally do pre-heresy. There's a lashing out here. And like you said, it's not the greatest idea for Conrad Kurz to try and even trick the lion, who's a master tactician, or fight him hand to hand. Yet he does it because he's probably pushed to the point where he's just sick of everything. There's brother against brother. There's a lot of tension. There's not even just tension, but there's a lot of jealousy probably. And the idea of chaos pushing and amplifying even the doubts, the fear, the anger, the thoughts that these guys have, and allowing it to kind of overtake them. So
yeah, okay. I think you did a great way of describing that to win me over.
Well, I was going to disagree with him for a little bit. So of course. So the lion's a great tactician, no doubt. And I know I keep drawing it back to Raven Guard, but that's just the Legion I know the best. Guilliman is also a great tactician, master of a bunch of worlds, Ultramar, X, Y, and Z. In battle simulations between Guilliman and Corax was able to defeat Guilliman and his Legion with a handful of Astartes, just because of their difference of fighting, and he thinks of things Guilliman won't think of. So when you're an honor-bound knight person who's very structured, you're very tactical, you're very straightforward, you're not going to think of certain things and certain ways of fighting that someone who grew up in the streets and eats people basically, or skins them alive.
Yeah, but that's not the lion's story though. Like, he was not born into a knightly order. For 100 years, all this guy did was kill abominations, massive beasts, mind you, bare naked and just with his fist, because he had no metallurgy, he had no weapon, he had no power armor. And that's all he did for 100 years. What did Kurz do? He went and he flayed fucking humans on a planet in the nighttime. He snuck up on them in the middle of the night and flayed them alive. Like, oh wow, you're such a good fighter. So like, there has to be that drive, that passion, even that little bit of chaos flair. Because yes, Reboot Guilliman is a master strategist, but like, he's not known for being a master swordsman. The lion is known for being an amazing swordsman. a master swordsman. There has to be that like alt factor for sure that helped them carry the day in this battle. Beyond just like, maybe I got to read that book, and I'm hoping the chat will say something a little bit. Conrad had precognition. Everything the dude he said was predetermined by fate. So yeah, and maybe that was a little bit of it. So you tie that into it, and then all of a sudden that fight, if the lion is swinging his sword and you see it coming, you kind of can get the upper hand.
I guess my example wasn't the greatest, but I do agree. There's something different about Cruz, or is it Cruz? No. Yeah. Curse. There's something different about Curse that the lion doesn't have. Yes, the lion was a monster, but maybe the lion had been stagnant from not fighting like that for his life all the time. I know he was in a crusade, but was he fighting those levels of opponent still? Was he fighting that ferociously anymore? Or was he kind of stagnant versus a literal psychopath in power armor, who I think, someone can tell me if I'm wrong, I think Cruz is significantly smaller than most of his brothers, and I think he's faster than some of them too. So that's a little harder to deal with when you're in that kind of thing. And again, I haven't read those books, but that's just what I envisioned when I was hearing this.
Yeah. The chat seems to be saying a lot of precog, future sight. And that really does help. And like you said, somebody says Conrad is also complete madman. So it's like he might take a stab in the arm if it gives him the upper hand. Something that like a normal swordsman would be like, I'm not going to do that. That seems like a foolish move, to wound myself to get the upper hand. But yeah, interesting fight. Maybe I'll read that book. But who has time to read 47 different Horus Heresy books? I can only read 36.
I haven't read a single one. I listened to them on audiobook.
I've listened to 4 of them, I think.
Okay. Well, Primarch battle.
Let's go. All right. The Battle of Perditis. There. That's gonna be fun. All right. In 8.M31, the Dark Angels intercepted an astropathic message from the Perditis system, where rumors of traitor movements reached their ears. Without hesitation, the Lion led his legion into the heart of the conflict. Upon their arrival, they disrupted a much-long engagement between the Iron Hands 98th Clad Company under Caslier Loramek and a sizable Death Guard force led by the dreaded first captain Callus Typhon. He's such a cool character. The two sides had clashed over a relic of untold significance, the Tachula engine.
Cholula. It's a hot
the Cholula
sauce.
engine. Yes. I'll call it Cholula if you don't stop me.
Cholula and salsa.
The T Cholula engine, an ancient sentient device of mysterious origin. The T Cholula was one of a part of trio of similar engines, including the Ouroboros and another nameless engine. When these united, these devices held the potential to tear rifts through space and time, altering the fabric of the universe itself. Kind of reminds me of all the Necron's Garden stuff that we talked about before.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah. Alone, the T Cholula was the weapon of exceptional power, capable of precise and devastating warp jumps. As both factions found themselves in the grip of a much larger force, the Dark Angels fleet, retreat became inevitable. The Lion's intervention spared the planet. At his command, both forces withdrew from the surface. That's pretty intimidating that he could just tell other legions to go away. Yet the Lion remained cautious. The true intentions of both the Iron Hands and the Death Guard, particularly the dark schemes of Typhon, were unknown to him. He would not allow such a power to fall into the hands of the treacherous Death Guard. The Lion, ever driven by inscrutable designs, requisitioned the Tichalula engine for his own purposes. With little fanfare, the Lion ordered the destruction of Perditis, a decision that left both commanders astounded. Using the Tichalula, he initiated a warp jump, only to find his forces beset by demonic entities. As the Imperium withered around them, the Lion called upon his legion's librarians, reinstating the core in defiance of the Emperor's decree at the Council of Nicaea. This act of defiance sparked a rift within the Dark Angels, culminating in the death of Chaplain Nemel, slain by the lion in a moment of unrestrained fury. Amidst the chaos of the battle, the lion faced greater demon of Tzeentch, Kairos Fate Weaver. The creature sought to sway the Primarch to turn him towards the ruinous power, but his words found no purchase. The lion's resolve was absolute. With disdain, he proclaimed that loyalty to the Emperor alone was its own reward, and with a single strike, he impaled Fate Weaver through the heart. Mocking the demon, the lion asked, "Did you foresee your defeat?" in the shadow. Yeah, that's really funny. In the shadows of the warp, the lion's indomitable will burned bright, untouched by the temptations of the chaos gods. His purpose, as always, was his own. That's kind of crazy to me that Tzeentch tried to bring him over to his side, because when you think of Tzeentch, you think of Magnus the Red, the Psychers, and 1,000 different schemes. Well, I guess that would fit with the lion, though, because he had a bunch of schemes he just kept with himself. So now I'm talking myself into the lion is a Tzeentch. A Tzeentch loyalist Primarch. I see it now. Talk myself out of it. That's a super cool encounter, especially if one Primarch told 2 legions to go away and they were like, okay.
Also,
it's
your T'Challua, which is actually T'Chulka or T'Chulka, whatever, is a in Etruscan mythology, it's a chthonic demon.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
So
yeah, like in 40K, it's a device with like a soul attached to it, some type of demonic entity attached to it. It comes up again in the Era Indomitus and the Lion, but it's this cool device that the old ones are rumored to have made to help punch holes into. It's almost like how they made the webway. It allows them to punch holes in real space and create tunnels, almost like wormholes through the galaxy and stuff. So very cool, interesting device that we will be talking about later again in this episode because it comes up again. But very unique, very powerful device.
Sounds kind of Necron-y, like we were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, time of the old ones and stuff with that kind of tech, and yeah. Hard to say where exactly it came from, but. So up next, we have Hunting the Night Hunter. The T'Challa engine, wielded once again by the Dark Angels, was an instrument of meticulously orchestrated ambush, a strike that shattered the Night Lord's fleet as it crossed the... How'd you say this, Salsa planet? The Tesla Gula? Sagualsa. Yeah, the Sagualsa subsector. In the depths of this encounter, the Lion faced his brother once more. In a clash of titans, L. Johnson and Cruz met in mortal combat. Though the battle was fierce, it was the Lion's unyielding strategy and precision that saw the back of the Night Lord's Legion broken, leaving their Primarch grievously wounded. The attack, a testament to the Lion's planning and his Legion's flawless execution, devastated the Night Lords. The Dark Angels' assault tore through the ranks, claiming dozens of capital ships and nearly a quarter of their fleet. Yet the Lion's forces pressed forward. The remnants of the Night Lord's fleet withdrew, bearing their wounded Primarch with them, slipping from Lionel Johnson's grasp before he could deliver the fatal blow. In the aftermath, the Night Lords licked their wounds, but not for long. Under the command of Kurz, now weakened but still a force to be reckoned with, the Night Lords launched a ferocious boarding assault on the Dark Angels' flagship, the Invincible Reason. It was a desperate act, but one born out of the Primarch's twisted resolve. The battle was brutal. Most of the Atramaetar Terminators perished in the assault, leaving only a dozen survivors. Among them was first Captain Sevatar, who, along with the few remaining, was captured by the Dark Angels. So that kind of goes to that thought of like sacrificing your arm to gain the upper hand, something that most strategic-minded people would never think of. But, you know, that's kind of the Kurz's way. Cruz, wounded yet elusive, vanished into the labyrinth of corridors of the Invincible Reason. There, in the shadows of the flagship, he waged a campaign of terror against the mortal crew. Fuck. Just goes back to his old ways of just killing mortals. Fucking guy.
Classic.
Each
Classic.
Yeah, classic. Each hunter-killer team dispatched by the Lion to track him down fell to his hands, until, wearied by loss, L. Johnson himself took to the pursuit. For 16 solar weeks, the Lion stalked his brother, haunting him through the darkened hallways of the ship, in an epic game of cat and mouse. But Kurz was a specter, always slipping just beyond his reach. In the end, the Night Lords were gone, their captives freed, and Kurz had once again escaped the Lion's wrath. The battle for supremacy between the two brothers would remain unresolved, their fates intertwined in a tale of shadow and blood that stretched on, a grim legend in the making.
This is what makes me almost, and I will say almost in bold, wish that Conrad Kurz was still around. I'm glad that I'm hoping they will never bring him back and whatnot, but I just the 1v1, like, I got you. Nope. No, you don't. I got you. Nope. No, you don't. The classic back and forth. I love when there's an obvious like rivalry. I wouldn't want to say rivalry necessarily, but like fuck it, rivalry between specific brothers. And here it is. And it's kind of a bummer that we don't have that like on table now. I almost feel like there's more of an animosity between Dark Angels and Space Wolves than there is with Dark Angels and Night Lords. And Night Lords really
Dark
aren't
Angels and Dark Angels.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
No, that's totally true. Like, yeah, such a cool rivalry that ultimately neither one of them got to get the upper hand. You know, I'm sure both of them fell asleep at night like, I could have got him if I just did this. And then, yeah, they neither did.
The Night Haunter doesn't fall asleep at night. He just haunts at night.
Fuck.
I was going to say, can't they just stay awake for a while because they're immortals? I thought part of it was they just didn't sleep.
They don't have to. Or they can go into the comatose sleep and just sleep for years and then be fine.
Yeah.
True.
All right. The Imperium Secundus, or the Second Imperium. In the aftermath of the Battle of Calth, the Imperium found itself cleaved in two, in twain, if you will. The vast expanse of space rendered unreachable by the tumultuous ruin storm that blotted out the light of the Astronomicon. Excuse me. And once again, Astronomicon being the kind of like the beacon light that allows for travel, intergalactic and whatnot. Warp travel became nearly impossible, of course, and the Dark Angels, cut off from Terra, came to the grim realization that they could not aid in its defense, even with the power of the how have we not gotten this yet? Cholula engine. No.
I like it. Let's go with it. The Chichula.
It's the Chula engine.
It's got to be like a ka, like Tukulka. A Culkin.
Brother, I struggle with English. I am not the one to help you with this.
And it's, all words are made up, like Mark says. All words are made up.
This is true. That's the only canon we can truly rely on.
That's true. Yeah. Tuchulcha, Tukulka. I'm going to call it Tukulka. That's fine. Amidst the chaos, a strange beacon from the alien device known as the Pharos guided them through the warp with an impossible link to guided them through the warp, an impossible link to salvation. The Dark Angels followed this enigmatic signal to the world of Sotha, where they found their way to the realm of Ultramar, arriving at Macragge, the heart of the Ultramarines' dominion. There, they met Rabute Guilliman and Sanguinius, the latter of whom also had been led by the Pharos to his sanctuary. Together, the three primarchs forged the foundation of the Imperium Secundus, a desperate effort to continue the Emperor's work and defy the forces of chaos. Guilliman, recognizing the necessity of strong leadership, as he would, of course, declared Sanguinius the rightful heir to the Emperor and the ruler of this new bastion of humanity. Lion L. Johnson, with his unyielding resolve and strategic brilliance, was named the Lord Protector of Imperium Secundus, a position akin to that of War Master, Horus's position on the other side. As supreme commander of his military, he was entrusted with the task of holding the line against the traitors, a charge that carried the weight of the Imperium's survival. Yet even as they sought to consolidate their power, the foundation of Imperium Secundus was shaken by the presence of Conrad Kurz, the Night Lord's Primarch, having escaped from the invincible reason, unleashed terror upon Macragge, sowing chaos in his wake. His rampage forced the Lion and Guilliman to confront him once more, but Kurz's cunning knows no bounds. He laid a trap that would have claimed their lives. An entire chapel rigged with explosives fell upon the two Primarchs. It's classic, man. Don't fall for the classic chapel rigged with explosives gag. Come on.
Oh yeah, classic. I do it all the time.
Every D&D group has died to that at least once.
Now it's got to happen. I feel like you're going to run some RPG and this will be the way to go. It does make me feel like Conrad Kurz is kind of like Wile E. Coyote and is just like has the Acme, like dynamite sticks. He's like, oh, we got this on this one.
Twirling his fucking mustache.
And two master tacticians did not think he would blow up a church on them. So
I wonder if that's like no, he's not going to do that. That's too stupid. He's going to be doing something better. It was only through the timely intervention of warsmith Barabbas Dantiok, a loyalist Iron Warriors commander who had been in contact with Guilliman through the Pharos, that the two Primarchs were saved. In a moment of instinctual heroism, Dantiok reached through the portal and pulled them from the jaws of death, ensuring that the fight would continue. Thus, the shadow of Kurz lingered, and the myth of Lionel Johnson's resolve deepened as the Dark Angel's fate remained tied to the uncertain future of the Imperium Secundus.
The Imperium Secundus.
Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. There it is. They both trade spots. They're just one's trying to get the other, and they escape. There it is.
Yeah. The story of the Imperial Secundus is pretty cool where, we have these Primarchs super far away from the Emperor. And at one point, the light of the Astronomicon, the one guiding force in the galaxy, goes out, it flickers out. And you got these Primarchs on the other side of the galaxy where they're like, wait a minute. Did the Emperor just die? Like, where did the light go? What happened? And this whole, idea of the Emperor, like, oh shit, did Horus just win the galaxy? Okay, we need to set up here. Like, we are now the last defense. We're the last remnants of the Imperium and all that is left. And just what would be going through their mind of that moment. This whole story is pretty cool. So they fortify the Ultramar and the 500 worlds, and they set up this whole mini empire and just are ready to kind of hold out.
And it's cool that Guilliman names Sanguinius like the head honcho, because I think we kind of get the idea that all these guys are very prideful and that they're the best and this and that. But it's cool to see that he goes, no, not me, you got this. And then the Lion, you're going to be the protector. Like he recognizes all the strengths of his brothers and goes, no, this is where you should be, and this is where you should be. Which also proves how amazing Guilliman is at being a strategist, because not just strategically on the battlefield, but strategic, like outside the battlefield, to get a better picture of the battlefield. Like, he knows where the best people should be. A true leader.
And it shows too, just like, we're saying Horus might not be the most charismatic of them all. Like, you want your face to be Sanguinius. That's the guy who's like going to be like the peaceful face, or like that like great unifier where you got the Lion who's the war master, and then you got Guilliman the statesman. Very cool how this empire kind of forms.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Next one, the Battle of Z-Path. one I could say. All right.
Did it.
The shadow of guilt weighed heavily upon Lionel Johnson, following the havoc wrought by the night hunter on Macragge. Consumed by a need for retribution, the lion embarked on an obsessive pursuit of his wayward brother, a relentless hunt that would stretch across 2 Terran years. His search was driven by a singular purpose: to bring an end to Conrad Kurz's campaign or rampage and restore a semblance of order to the Imperium. So this guy spent almost 20% of the heresy chasing his brother. That's crazy. In 11.M31, a faint trace of Kurz's presence finally emerged, leading the Lion to the Z-Path system. This once prosperous system had since fallen to the forces of the Word Bearers and World Eaters, who had left it scarred by their dark rituals during the Shadow Crusade. The Lion, unwavering in his quest, sent Fareth Redloss, the lieutenant-elect of the Dark Angels Dreadwing, to spearhead the hunt for the Night Hunter on Z-Path. As the Dark Angels descended upon the system, they uncovered the horrific truths behind the Word Bearers' unholy practices, a darkness that pervaded the very land. Yet, the Lion's forces met this challenge head-on, engaging in a series of brutal confrontations with the traitor legions. The final clash accumulated in the capital city of Numentis, where the Dark Angels emerged victorious, annihilating the traitor forces and leaving the world in the hands of its surviving populace. While the Lion's focus remained unyielding, other elements of the Dark Angels were dispatched to fight in separate engagements. A detachment under Captain Ormand reinforced the Space Wolves in their struggles against the Alpha Legion in the Alexis Nebula, while another, led by Corswain, was tasked with hunting down the elusive Callus Typhon in the wake of the Battle of Perdidas. The web of conflict spun ever wider. The Lion's resolve never faltered in his unyielding pursuit of justice. That's just so cool to think that he's sending out his captains, and his legion is big enough to do that, that he's dispatching captains to go chase down other important captains and chapter masters is the wrong word, but whatever it was before chapter masters of the traitor legions. That's just such a cool thing.
Yeah, it's such like a knightly motif too, or not motif, but knightly kind of thing. Like, I'm gonna go charge that or challenge that guy to singular combat and take him out, take out their head.
Totally. Yeah, it has that feel of Sir so-and-so, bring me the head of Sir whatever his name is.
Yeah. Yeah. Exile of the Lion. In the wake of his relentless pursuit of the elusive Night Hunter, Lionel Johnson found himself locked in a ceaseless clash of wills with Reboot Guilliman. Their strategic disagreements were most evident in the matter of securing Imperium Secundus, with the Lion growing increasingly convinced that the insurrection on Macragge was the result of Conrad Kurz's machinations. The conflict reached a tipping point after the suicide bombing of an Astartes convoy. The Lion, certain that Kurz was hiding amidst the rebellion in the Elrilium region, took a decisive step of imposing martial law upon Macragge, advocating for an orbital saturation bombardment to eliminate his brothers once and for all. The Lion's plan met resistance, particularly from Guilliman and the Emperor Sanguinius. Unable to secure approval for the drastic measures, L. Johnson instead deployed his Dreadwing to root out Kurz and quash the insurgents. The hunt culminated in Alma Mons, where the Lion at last cornered his treacherous sibling. In the ensuing battle, the Lion's fury brought Kurz to the brink of death. Yet even in the moment of victory, the Night Lord's Primarch words hung heavy. Why not? Kurz revealed the torment of the monstrous presence within his mind, a force that guided his every action. Yet even in this revelation, the Lion could not bring himself to end his brother's life. Instead, in the moment of brutal clarity, the Lion shattered Kurz's spine, crippling him, before presenting him to Sanguinius and Guilliman for judgment. A triumvirate was held, and Kurz stood resolute in his defense, refusing to acknowledge guilt for his actions. He argued that his nature was his purpose, and in his mind he had committed no crime. His words, however, struck deeper divisions between the Lion and Guilliman when he accused L. Johnson of secretly ordering the orbital bombardment in defiance of Guilliman's orders to prevent civilian casualties. Enraged, the Lion sought to silence his brother, but was halted by Sanguinius, who intervened with the quiet authority as Guilliman. In his fury, shattered the Lion sword. Unable to reconcile, the triumvirate collapsed, and the Lion was banished from the Imperium Secundus. As his forces withdrew from Macraig, the weight of recent events bore down upon L. Johnson. In the chamber of the Tachula engine, aboard the Invincible Resurgence, he reflected on the cost of his decisions. Luther's banishment, Nemriel's death, and countless others. A sense of regret filled him as the Dark Angels readied themselves to depart for Caliban. But the Lion's resolve remained unbroken. Returning to the chamber of the Tachula engine, he ordered the device to teleport him back, and Hologan and the Deathwing's lieutenant, back to Macraig. In the moment when Sanguinius was prepared to execute Kurz, L. Johnson arrived, demanding that the sentence be stayed. He revealed his reasoning, speaking of Kurz's ability to foresee potential futures, including his own death at the hands of an assassin sent by the Emperor. If true, L. Johnson reasoned it could only mean that the Emperor still existed beyond the ruined stone's barrier. Sanguinius recognized the weight of the Lion's words, however, understanding the truth in his reasoning. Guilliman sought to know the future of Kurz. Kneeling before his brothers, the Lion pledged to be the Night Hunter's jailer, vowing to keep him captive aboard the Invincible Reason. Though Kurz remained a rare and reluctant source of prophecy, the Lion's vigil never wavered, even as his brother's visions remained elusive and his cooperation scarce. The game of fate continued as both the Lion and brother faced the inevitable threads of destiny, yet to be spun. Man, so much happens there where we have this Imperium Secus Empire. They think they're all that's left. And, even after just a short time, they're already butting heads against each other. Like such massive personalities, such massive characters with armies behind them start butting heads right away. And things happen. The Lion is able to kind of put together what's happening on the other side of the galaxy with the Emperor. He must still be alive. If Kurz is saying this and he has foresight, he must still be alive out there.
These moments are really cool, and I look forward to listening or reading this stuff in the Horus Heresy book series. When there's so much interaction between multiple primarchs happening at the same time, and there's even little bit of like, I don't want to say infighting, but disagreement amongst the loyalists. That's, I think, when it gets really fun too, because it's obvious that like there's disagreements and fighting between, sometimes chaos, because chaos is chaos, but also like the Imperium versus chaos. But it's fun to see like a little bit of they're all trying to do the best and they're all trying to do the right thing, and to the point where like we said, Guilliman gets so pissed he breaks his sword, right? He breaks the Lion sword.
Yeah.
Man. And not even pissed, but more just I'm fed up with this. Just kind of, he puts his foot down. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like it's such a great way to interact without having it come to like blows or whatever, where Primarch versus Primarch in a struggle and a conflict and one mortally wounds the other. Like, no, this is like a battle of like will, almost a battle of opinion.
Yeah, and even that the Lion spares his brother. Like he knows that he could kill him in that moment, and instead just decides to break his back, decides to disable him. Would the other side do the same thing? Not at all. I do not believe so.
No.
So that's cool to see the polarity of like, oh, he could still be saved kind of thing. Very very Luke and Darth Vader.
Well, he also spares him twice. Once when he breaks his back, and once when Guilliman's about to kill him. And it's like, yeah, he has a tactical purpose, which is something a tactical person would think of. But I wonder if it's like kind of a remnant love for his brother still. That this is my brother. I don't want him to die for this. Even though he's spent 2 years hunting him, he doesn't want to kill him. He still wants him around for allegedly just his psychic prophecies, but it could be more than just that.
Purge says in the chat, Kurz, the uniter of brothers. It's it's funny, and I think he meant it as like, it is funny, but it's true. And you're right. I think there's like a sense of truth there that when you have a common enemy, or even like to get into like, certain family things, like when you have a family member who's struggling with something, or like kind of the black sheep and the out and whatnot, you all kind of come together to try and figure out what to do, how to help them. And in this case, it's the bickering and the like, no, we need to do this. No, we need to do this. And there is unity in that too. There is a little bit of unity, and it's like, it kind of makes me think of like, it's cartoonish, like the Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, but it's like Conrad, like trying to blow up chapels, slipped
At
from
it
my
again.
grasp. Conrad, yeah.
Oh, he's just in the basement of my flagship, wreaking havoc on mortals. Oh,
He's such a rascal.
He just feels like the younger brother. He just feels like the younger brother. It's like, I'm fucking sick of this. I'm running around trying to blow shit up. I'm trying to kill you. You're gonna break my back. I'm pissed. Just let me go in my room and listen to my music.
And everyone says Korak's the emo one when Cruz is running around doing all this.
There can be two. Don't worry, there can be two.
I feel like Kurz is proper industrial goth, and I respect that. Kurz would probably be a Skinny Puppy fan and maybe listen to some Bauhaus. So respect.
Oh, I love this.
Anyway, the second Battle of Davin. In the aftermath of the dissolution of Imperium Secundus, an endeavor now deemed an unfortunate error by the three primarchs, Lionel Johnson, Sanguinius, and Rebute Guilliman, they led their legions in a unified drive to breach the ruin storm and reach Terra. The emperor they now know still lived, and they would see the Imperium restored. Upon entering the ruin storm, the fleet encountered horrors of the warp, nightmarish entities spreading ruin across space. Word of a being called the Pilgrim, known for its destructive presence, reached them, but even the Tuchulka engine, a marvel of craft, was unable to navigate the storm's treacherous tides. This failure only served to frustrate the Lion, a frustration that would grow as they pushed onward. Their journey led them to the world of Davin, the heart of the ruin storm's malign influence upon real space. Here in the second Battle of Davin, the loyalist forces engaged a vast demonic host in both the skies above and upon the cursed ground of the world below. Sanguinius, following a vision, had resolved that the key to saving the emperor lay here at the origin of the heresy. The Lion and Guilliman, though unwilling, were compelled to trust Sanguinius, but even as they entered orbit above Davin, both primarchs harbored thoughts of simply annihilating the world with exterminatus. Yet Sanguinius shocked the Lion by boarding the invincible reason, taking Conrad Kurz still captive with him. The Blood Angels Primarch sought to use Kurz's prophetic abilities, believing they held the key to understanding the path ahead. While Sanguinius led a mass assault on the surface, L. Johnson, filled with seething rage, nearly condemned Davin to utter destruction. He paused, however, and a chilling realization overtook him. He had been pushed to the precipice of damnation, manipulated by an unseen force. In this moment of clarity, the Lion followed Sanguinius to the surface. There, on the bleak and desolate world, Sanguinius found himself ensnared within a portal to the warp. His struggle with the demon made Medael echoing through the ages. Above, Guilliman and L. Johnson fought to reach him, while in the void, the Samothrace, Guilliman's flagship, was torn apart by the demon ship Veritas Ferrum. On the surface of Davin, within the cursed temple of the Serpent Lodge, the site of Horus's own fall, L. Johnson and Guilliman fought side by side. Their partnership, once strained, was now a singular force of purpose as they felled the massive soul grinder demon engine in their path. The strength of their bond as brothers, reforged in battle, was a moment of mythic clarity. When Sanguinius at last escaped the warp's grip, the loyalist forces withdrew, and Davin met its end beneath the fire of cyclonic torpedoes. As the world crumbled into oblivion, so too did the anchor that held the rune storm to real space. The breach to Terra was revealed, yet it was a path barred by a gauntlet of traitor fleets, a blockade Horus had foreseen. In their final strategy, Guilliman and L. Johnson resolved to create a diversion, drawing the traitor forces away. The Blood Angels, with Sanguinius at their helm, would race for Terra as Sanguinius's visions had foretold. Meanwhile, the Ultramarines and Dark Angels would lead attacks upon the traitor fleets, clearing the way. As the siege of Terra began, the Lion's mind turned to the homeworlds of the traitors, places he would strike with brutal efficiency. Chemos, the home of the Emperor's children, and Barbarus, the Death Guard's domain, would fall to the Dark Angels. These acts of destruction, dark as they were, brought the Lion a strange satisfaction. The Primarch's path was clear: to strike at the heart of the traitor legions, and in doing so, carve his own place in the eternal tale of the Imperium. Ooh.
Yeah, that's
Heavy
cool.
stuff. Oh, it's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah, the way
It's
they
crazy.
break the ruin storm and finally like clear this whole thing and get some clarity on like, oh shit, man, the Emperor is still out there. Good thing we didn't. Good thing we found that out.
And taking the homeworld of two of his brothers, especially the Death Guard one, that's a like, I know we just glanced over it really quick in this, but that is huge because that was a rough world. And I think it became more toxic when they became the Death Guard. So just conquering that world and then the Emperor's Children one, that is so cool that one legion is just going through and taking out fleets and taking planets for themselves that were owned by two incredibly powerful primarchs, Fulgrim and Mortarion. That's just, I love that. This is so cool.
Yeah. So much happens there, from the bonds of brotherhood being rebuilt when they're battling on Davin. Yeah, such good story. And then they finally kind of make their way onwards. Terra, they see it, they have the option to go there.
Yeah, the passage of the angels and the crusade of vengeance. Before or during the siege of Terra, the Dark Angel fleet found themselves in a profound darkness. The Astronomican, their guiding light, vanished from the warp. In the void that followed, the Lion, sensing the fall of Terra to Horus, succumbed to a cold nihilism. The path to Terra was now a lost cause. Vengeance would be his new creed. With ruthless resolve, L. Johnson turned his gaze towards the heart of the traitor forces, vowing to burn their territories in retribution. He rationalized the destruction of their homeworlds, believing that such a purge might draw reinforcements away from the defense of Terra. Thus began the Passage of the Angels, a campaign of bitterness and wrath, where the Dark Angels, unmoored from the Astronomicon, relied on the Titula engine to guide them through the dark expanse of the warp. Under the Lion's will, Chemos, the Emperor's Children world, and Barbaros, the Death Guard's desolate home, were reduced to cinders in a purge that spoke of fury and spite. Yet in the midst of this crusade, the Lion sought to rally allies, and so the Dark Angel fleets made course for deliverance. Yeah, the home world of the Raven Guard. There, Corax and Russ were gathering their legions, preparing for the greater war. The Lion, still consumed by burning wrath, questions Corax's absence from the war's fronts, only to find his ire quenched by Russ. The Space Wolves leader reminded the Lion of the need for survival, pointing out that even if Terra was lost, their continued existence was of paramount importance. Russ, ever loyal to the cause, pledged the Space Wolves to L. Johnson's crusade of vengeance. With the new Mark VI Corvus power armor forged on Kievyar, the Space Wolves prepared for battle. Yet Corax, ever the strategist, saw little gain in throwing his battered legion into a fight driven by emotion. His caution led him to send only a small expeditionary force, a token presence, to accompany the Dark Angels and Space Wolves. In time, the Lion gave order to finally head towards Terra, but by the time the Dark Angels arrived, the siege had already passed its critical moment. The Emperor lay mortally wounded by Horus, and his form was entombed upon the Golden Throne, a tragedy that could not be undone. L. Johnson's vengeance, though mighty, came too late after the course to alter the course of the Imperium's fate. Again, that's just so crazy that one Primarch and his legion had such an impact that they probably could have prevented this from happening. But the fact they lost their North Star, it pushed them away into this unbridled fight for vengeance.
Yeah, this just kind of strikes it to me like it goes back to their knightly origins and maybe kind of some references to like retaking Jerusalem, where it's like Jerusalem's lost, Terra's lost right now, but we can take this spot on the way. We can take this spot, and we'll slowly battle our way back there. And like, we don't want to throw our lives away over here. Like, this isn't over yet. This isn't over as long as we're all still here. As long as Russ is by my side, as long as Corax is by my side, this ain't over, regardless of what happens on Terra.
Yeah, it's really cool to see the Lions like precise and tactical mind in work here. And like you said, Logan, like we just kind of gloss over it that he takes these worlds, but he does it out of like vengeance, like if we could say so. And we use the word wrath a lot in this. He does it out of like, you're fucking with Terra, fine, I'm going to take your homeworlds. I'm going to bring them to the ground, and I'm going to hit yours, and I'm going to hit yours. And it's this almost like, I dare you to come out. He's drawing them out. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Man, I've never been like a huge Dark Angels fan. Like, I think they're cool, they're neat, and it's great. Reading this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to paint the Lion. Like, I want to paint that model. I wanted to for a little bit just because it looks cool, but now, oh man, so rad. So much more respect.
Yeah, I think his model's way cooler than Guilliman's by a lot.
Agreed.
Do you like the 30K Guilliman or the 30K Lion?
I think the 30K Guilliman sucks. Just straight up. He's just standing on a thing.
I'm looking him up.
No, I don't like him.
Yeah,
He's
he has a
just standing
short
there.
little dinky sword, a little
Yeah,
gladius.
no, he sucks. Yeah. The Lions is just so much cooler.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at Guilliman's. He's we paved the way. We're holding him. He's cool. He's cool. It's pretty cool. Now we got to see. Okay, Lion L. Johnson, and yep, that wins. Yeah,
by a lot.
Yeah.
In both regards, he wins by a lot.
Man. So, now I want to paint that. So cool. And what's neat too, if you look at the painted model, what's just beneath him, the dead traitor Space Marines,
the Night Lords.
They're Night Lords. They're Night Lords.
Very
Oh,
nice.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like he's just like, the Lion is an unstoppable force, and Horus knew it from the beginning, hence sending him so far away, because it just seems like every encounter he goes in, he is able to win it. Whether it's against traitor Primarchs, he had his one little downside at the very first encounter with Cruz, but since then he pretty much just sees opposition and crushes it.
Even
takes planets.
But Kurz kind of drove him to the point of like, he considering like orbital bombing Davin just to get him. Like he pushes his buttons almost. It's like, I'm going to get this guy. Ah!
Yeah.
The determination is there. We keep using this word when talking about Lionel Johnson, unyielding. I think that's very true. His resolve, and he's just focused. He's unyielding. Oh, so cool.
So, unfortunately, the Emperor has been defeated or laid low, but Horus has also been killed. The traitors kind of all flee. And we'll talk about the Lion's return to Caliban. Grief-stricken and embittered by the failure to reach Terra in time to save the Emperor during the siege, L. Johnson returned to Caliban for the first time in many standard years. The events of the Horus Heresy had left deep scars, and Caliban, long severed from the main body of the Dark Angels due to the tumultuous ruin storm and the roiling tempest of the Imperium, now stood as the only place where the Lion could seek respite. He came to regroup, to recover, and to process the profound loss. Upon arrival, however, the Lion's fleet was met with violent resistance, a barrage of defensive fire from Caliban's surface that forced them to withdraw. In the silence that followed, L. Johnson sought the truth. Through a passing merchant vessel, he learned of the betrayal most foul. Luther, his oldest friend and once mentor, had poisoned the minds of the garrison, seizing control of the world. In that moment, Lionel Johnson saw clearly. The corruption of chaos had once again taken root. This time in the soul of his closest companion. Fury, ancient and righteous, rose within the Lion, and he vowed to purge the planet of its corruption. In a wrathful decree, L. Johnson ordered the complete orbital bombardment of Caliban, his homeworld, ensuring that chaos would be eradicated no matter the cost. The planet burned beneath him, its defenses crumbled to dust under the weight of his vengeance. L. Johnson descended with his force, leading them personally into the heart of the last bastion of resistance, the Order's fortress monastery. There, he confronted Luther, finding his twisted and unrecognizable, his soul fully corrupted by the chaos gods. The remnants of his old friend were all but gone. Luther, now a champion of chaos, stood before L. Johnson, empowered by the gifts of the dark gods, his strength equal to that of the Primarch himself. The two clashed in a combat so devastating it reshaped the very land beneath them. As the battle raged, the monastery crumbled, but the true cost was yet to come. The ongoing bombardment had begun to fracture Caliban's crust, unknowingly hastening its demise. In the midst of their fury, the Dark Angels in orbit could not see the destruction they were unleashing on their world. Caliban, the once proud cradle of their legion, was breaking apart, consumed by the very forces they sought to annihilate. Man, so he comes back to his planet, and his whole upbringing for 100 years, he was just alone in the forest, killing warp beast after warp beast. And then he went on this whole crusade. He gathered all the knightly orders underneath him, and he's like, we need to rid this planet of chaos. And he went on this cruise, and he was able to kill all the beasts. And he was met with a lot of fierce resistance. And then the whole Horus Heresy happens. Again, chaos has happened. This is the story of his life, is him just battling chaos. And then finally at the end, he's like, man, chaos won. I got to go home and take a break. And boom, chaos was there. And he was pissed. This righteous retribution of I have had enough of chaos. I will destroy everything. I don't care of the cost.
Yeah, that's super brutal when you'd rather burn an entire well, also his mentor and assumably best friend is completely gone too. So at that point, what do you have left other than vengeance? It seems
it's like that final straw. He didn't even treat some of the traitor homeworlds this way.
Yeah, no, this was definitely just we talked about him being in his feelings when he was confessing to Perturabo. He's in his feelings again, rightfully so, and his feelings are, I'm nuking this planet because I cannot deal with this again.
Yeah, man, it's dark and it's sad, and coming back to your, like you said, Mark, coming back to your home world, looking for respite and finding chaos. And this, I think, truly is the last straw for Lionel Johnson. He just can't escape it. And it is an emotional thing. And we talk about more of the the traitor primarchs being the ones that act on their emotions. Here it clearly happens, but it kind of is the play. Like, it's the thing to do because your homeworld now has become a place for chaos. So what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to destroy it. You can't let it go, right? You have to destroy it. It's so sad. There's so many, man. I'm trying to come up with parallels from other stories and movies. There's so many things that feel like this has happened, but it's just so, it so fits 40K, where even he, like, again, the grimdark, he tries to go home. Nope. And that's what makes stories good, is that there's like this, the rise and fall of tension, obviously, but it's upping the stakes. It's, you get here and then like, oh, okay, nope.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, he doesn't just go home and find peace after the long war. You know, there is no peace amongst the stars at this point, and that's the whole cause of the Horus Heresy. Or not the whole cause, but that's the whole effect of the Horus Heresy. Like, we never go back. Like, there is no going back till before Horus rebelled. This is now it. It's chaos all the way down everywhere you look.
It's the tagline of the whole franchise. In the grim darkness of the future, there is only war. Even when the war is done, there's more war. That's all this is. Yeah, he's got it right there.
Got it, baby. Always.
He's got his old school book up on the screen.
We always got to have the old school book.
Always got it.
Do you sleep with that under your pillow, or which codex do you choose, or do you rotate?
He has a body pillow codex.
Logan body pillow. Yes. This is
I don't like that, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool. Also, we make mention just that they're hitting this planet so hard that the crust starts to like give way and crumble. Like, it is just being bombarded, and there's so much happening here. So good.
So the real question, Court, the next section is the final battle. Do you want to take that, or do you want me to take it for you?
How's your emotions, Court?
Yeah, how
hang on.
Yeah, wiggle it out, stretch it out.
No,
if you got a cat, pet it now.
I don't.
Fuck.
Is it gonna lock in? Court, you got this? You locking in?
No, we're gonna find out.
What about,
all right.
What about that primary space marine behind you? Can you get comfort out of it?
He's in the other room.
No.
Rip.
Maybe I can grab my Necronomicon. Does that help at all? No.
I don't think that will help.
Is that an emotional support book?
Oh man. All right, we've got this. I've got this for sure.
I believe in you.
Thank you. The final battle. Oh God, I can't. I'm just kidding. Here we go. The battle between Luther and the Lion was of such a magnitude that it could not be measured by mortal standards. Oh, right off the bat. It raged with an intensity that shattered the very foundations of Caliban. But it was a psychic strike, swift and devastating, that ultimately felled El Johnson. The blow appeared to mortally wound the Lion, and in that moment, the veil of jealousy and rage that had clouded Luther's mind was torn away. For the briefest of moments, he saw the truth, his betrayal, his envy, and in that clarity, he collapsed, unable to continue the fight. Yet his remorse came too late, for El Johnson's fate had already been sealed. As Luther fell, the ruinous powers of chaos stirred in fury, realizing that they have lost yet another of their pawns. In their wrath, they unleashed a tremendous warp storm upon Caliban, a force of destruction so immense that the planet itself began to tear asunder, breaking apart under the unrelenting assault. Only the Order's fortress monastery, shielded by powerful defensive force fields, stood unscathed amidst the cataclysm. The traitorous dark angels, corrupted by Luther and the temptations of chaos, were drawn into the very fabric of the warp. The storm scattered them across the galaxy and beyond, lost to time and space. From that moment onward, they were no longer known as dark angels, but as the fallen angels, or simply fallen. The fallen. As the echoes of devastation faded, the remnants of the dark angels descended upon the shattered husk of Caliban. What remained was little more than an asteroid, scarred and broken, upon which stood the solitary fortress monastery. In the ruins, they found Luther, his mind broken, murmuring that L. Johnson had been taken by the Watchers in the Dark, little cool hooded guys that are on most of the models. He spoke of a return, a day when the lion would forgive him for his sins, yet no trace of their primarch could be found. The lion had vanished, leaving behind only the mysteries of his fate. The fallen, scattered across the stars, would bear the burden of their betrayal for eternity, and Caliban, in its final death throes, would forever be a symbol of lost hope. We did it. Whew.
Good job,
Whew.
buddy.
Man,
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
I know
So
that was
cool.
rough.
Well, it's
Yeah,
really
like-
neat to get the image of this happening, because I've just kind of heard it in passing. Like, oh, there's the fight between him and Luther, and then like the planet kind of broke. But I didn't know, and maybe it's most common knowledge here for everybody, but like I didn't know about Luther's little revelation at the end. And
Yeah.
it just kind of going, oh shit, what have I done? So
It's
cool.
one of the very unique things about 40K is this sense of redemption. Like oftentimes there's a lot of things in 40K that is irredeemable, but when the lion even comes back in 40K times, he tries to redeem the fallen. He does come back and make true to his word of like trying to let the sins of the past kind of redeem themselves, you know. We don't want to get too much into that.
Yeah. For me, this was cool because I had never actually heard this story. It was just explained to me when I was brand new in the hobby that the lion is lost somewhere in the fortress monastery, and the fallen just keep moving him around, and they can never find him. I was
Yeah.
just like, okay. I was brand new to the hobby, so I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Fortress monasteries are a thing. There are dudes called the Fallen, and they're moving a giant being around a building. Yeah, totally makes sense to me.
The other cool part about this battle is just once again how it parallels the Emperor. You know, even during the battle, the Emperor, he's fighting Horus, and he's like, I don't want to kill this guy. He's well, in the Emperor's case, he's my son. In the Lion's case, he's like, was my mentor, my friend. And he's holding back and he's holding back. And then finally, you know, he's had enough, and he has that snapping moment where he lays him low and everything kind of comes into place. But ultimately, he's laid low as well during it. And yeah, very much just like the Emperor, sequestered away.
Horus had that moment of clarity too, didn't he? That he realized he was wrong.
Yeah.
Or did I fever dream that?
Yeah, so I have yet to read the Siege of Terra, but I definitely know in like older editions that was a thing. But maybe that has been slightly retconned of that like moment of clarity. And yeah, maybe the chat knows exactly if somebody's read the Siege of Terra books.
Yeah, that's what chat's for. Jack specifically, he's just lore dumping on us this whole episode. Jack
Well,
urge.
it happens too with the lion, like we said earlier, when he goes to kill Conrad Kurz and then instead just breaks his back, just disables him. There's that again, feels like the grim dark vibe of like you think it's one thing and then it flips to the other. You can't have that you can't have that like dark sadness without kind of the realization of like, dear God, what have I done? Kind of thing. I think it's so cool. And we don't always want it. We don't always want the, oh no, I shouldn't have done that, because a lot of times, especially when we talk about like chaos forces and stuff, no, we want that like, fuck you, I am in this. Like, I'm not wrong, you're wrong. You know?
A la Anakin Skywalker burning on Mustafar. I hate you.
100%. I had it in my mind the whole time.
Yeah. Oof.
I was picking
One
up
of
what
the
you were
best
putting
scenes
down.
in cinema of all time.
Triple nerding. There we go.
Oh,
It
so
is.
good. All right, but now we have the fate of the lion. In the heat of his final confrontation with Luther on the shattered world of Caliban, Lionel Johnson was struck by a psychic blow so profound it left him mortally wounded. The force of the assault was so great that it tore through the very fabric of reality, pulling L. Johnson into the maelstrom of the warp. Yet, as the storm subsided, Luther stood broken, mentally shattered, and was taken prisoner by the Dark Angels. Okay. Bound and broken, Luther was confined to the deepest recesses of the rock, the last remnant of Caliban, and the fortress monastery of the Order. There, with a stasis cell, he was left to contemplate his treachery, the price of his betrayal against the Primarch. His continued existence was a secret known only to the supreme grand masters of the Dark Angels, each of whom alone held the key to his prison. The Sword of Secrets, the chapter's most revered artifact and the mark of the Supreme Grandmaster's authority. Meanwhile, the lion was whisked away by the chaos of Caliban's destruction, was hidden from the world by the Watchers in the dark. Taken to a chamber deep within the heart of the rock, L. Johnson was placed in a dreamless slumber, a sleep of unnatural preservation. This secret, known only to the Emperor on his golden throne, was a mystery even to the Supreme Grand Commander of the Dark Angels. And yet, whispers began to circulate amongst the Dark Angels, borne on the winds of hope and despair. Some spoke of the day when the Lion would return to lead one final crusade, a campaign that would bring the Dark Angels their greatest triumph and redemption for the fallen. Unbeknownst to them, the legend held a deeper truth than they realized. Their Primarch, long thought lost, lay in eternal slumber at the heart of their own fortress monastery, awaiting the time when the lion would rise once more. So I just had a thought while reading that, semi-related to this, because a lot of the loyalist Primarchs lore is they'll return for a great thing and they'll defeat chaos, yada yada yada. It would be super cool if, when eventually there are, what are there, 8 living Primarchs or 9, 7 living Primarchs, loyal, 7 living Primarchs, chaos, they start fighting and then something else big happens and they kind of get scattered and it doesn't reset the universe, but it pushes it in a totally new direction when now there's a whole new set of problems other than chaos, Xenos, and the Imperium. Just that's silly future state, but that's what came to mind. Like, we're almost there, this is the golden hour, but there is only war, and now there's a whole different level of problem, bigger than the Tyranids, bigger than the Necrons. Just something insane happens. Would be super cool, but that's probably at the rate they're going 30 years down the road.
Yeah.
But it's not improbable, because that does feel like what we've been talking about. You think it's one thing and then it shifts to another, and it's up raising the stakes. So I think you're spot on. It would be rad to see that.
Yeah, maybe like the Dark Angels of the schism, maybe there's a schism between the loyalist Primarchs of thinking we need to preserve the Imperium, or thinking, well, maybe Horus was a little right. Maybe we need to do a little bit of this. We're not chaos, but we disagree with you. You know, that kind of thing could happen. Redemption arc.
I don't think we need Horus Heresy 2.0 personally. I don't need to see any more Primarchs battling Primarchs personally.
I want a redemption,
but I'm just a hater.
I want a redemption arc for the evil Primarchs, and I want some of the good ones to fall. I want to see it. I want the factions to flip. I want certain ones that are in the warp to come out and be like, oh my god, we were wrong, and the loyalists that went in there to chase them so consumed by hate that now they're basically chaos ones, and they have a separate legion other than their loyalist one. That would be super cool. So it's not a Horus Heresy 2.0, but it's like the fracture of the Imperium.
It's just Logan's fan wankery.
This is my fan fiction. You guys can go on to logansfanfiction.com and read all about my entire new universe that I just wrote here live on Lorehammer.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah, crazy. Like you said, this sets up like 40K. It sets up that like end times event that now Games Workshop is actually kind of writing for, 30 years. We kind of had this picture of the lion and what he was up to, and where him and Russ would come back in the wolf time, in the end time. But now we're in it. So what happens after this? Do they AOS the setting, or old world the setting, blow it all up, start with something completely different? Do they traitor flip them all? I've heard people say that that's possible too, and they name which ones, like Putarabo, he didn't fully fall to chaos, or whatever. Yeah, who knows?
See, if we treated it as a setting, we wouldn't have to worry about these problems.
No, we would not.
Just saying.
So up next, we have the Great Scouring, and this kind of is the name right after the Horus Heresy, when all the primarchs go on their vengeful crusade to rid the galaxy and push the traitors back into the Eye of Terra. But because of his grievous wounds and the mysterious fate that kept him bound within the heart of the rock, Lionel Johnson was absent during the Great Scouring, the period in which the loyalist primarchs rallied their forces to hunt down and destroy the remnants of the traitor legions. While the other loyalist primarchs, driven by their thirst for vengeance and duty, took to the stars in pursuit of their fallen brothers, Lionel Johnson's fate was sealed in the timeless slumber. His absence from the Scouring left a void in the ranks of the Imperium's defenders, and many spoke of what might have been had he been present to lead the Dark Angels in those dark days. Instead, his absence became a silent echo that lingered in the annals of Imperium. In the Imperium, a testament to the Lion's sacrifice and unyielding mystery of his fate. So that, for now, is where we're going to leave the story of the Lion. I actually had like 5 or 6 more pages, but honestly, this is a good spot. We'll pick this up after the next episode we're doing is on the Dark Angels Legion. And then the Legion or episode after that is the Dark Angels chapter in 40K. And maybe we'll pick up the story of the Lion again there. That seems maybe more fitting than revealing it now. What a story, though, of all the Primarchs going through it. Like, I've always said that Rogel Dorn and Reboot Guilliman I really liked the most. But I think after kind of doing the notes, putting some like pieces together, the Lion is number 1 for me. I think what happened to me for the Dark Angels is just too often they were memed upon for me, and then it kind of just ruined them in the lore, where too many memes about get the heavy flamer or he's a fallen. No, he's a fallen. Like, but the whole essence of them, of Lionel Johnson being the Emperor's firstborn son and being so similar to that, both in personality, both in drive and ambition, both in what he ends up doing, both his fate, like all of it is such a parallel to the Emperor. And then you just sprinkle lightly that 40K knightly aesthetic, the clash of old world knights and technology. And it's just a killer image and a great story. There's redemption as well, which we often don't see in 40K, which is very, very rare. But we see many times the Lionel Johnson, he tries to redeem Luther. He tries to redeem Cruz. When he comes back, he does a little more redemption and stuff. And just such a unique character.
This, because like you, I had only ever heard the memes. And I always thought that they were kind of like an edgy knight legion. So I never really cared to look into it before. But the first episode that you guys did, I'm like, okay, this guy's kind of cool. I'm kind of vibing with it. And then reading through this one, I'm like, this is such a cool character. I take back all of the bad things I said about the Dark Angels. This is such a cool, unique, and I thought he would be more generic, but he's not. He's really well defined as a character, and this has been such a cool journey to go on to learn about him.
Yeah, and if the Primarch is a representation of their legion or chapter, and most of this case we're discussing it as a legion, I always thought it was kind of goofy that like the Dark Angels hunt the fallen. And it's kind of like, yeah, but a lot of people fell to chaos. Like, what makes you guys so pissed off that, like, we have to go get them, we have to kill them? Like, yeah, we get it, but it's like Dave, Joe, and Bob from the Ultramarines left too, and you don't see them hunting the fallen specifically and being so pissed off about that. But when you look at Lionel Johnson as a representation of the Legion, he's so pissed and personally like scarred and almost traumatized by chaos because of how much has happened, seeing his brothers fall and in the way that they did, and the constant back and forth with Conrad Kurz. It's just the distaste and hatred for chaos is so apparent with Lionel Johnson, so that it makes sense that like the Dark Angels will hunt the fallen. Like they will take it upon themselves to do this mini crusade rather, and just go kill heretics. And I think it feels more justified now, learning a lot more. And I said at the top of this podcast, I'm going to learn a lot because I did not know much about Dark Angels and Lionel Johnson. And the idea of them hunting the fallen seems way cooler now. It just does. It fits.
Yeah. I love that he just reached that snapping point, man, where it's just like, I grew up with this shit, then I had to battle the galaxy against this shit, then half my brothers fell to chaos because of this shit, and then I come home and my planet once again is infested with chaos. I've had enough. I'm done with it. And he just
kid is back on the escalator. Mallrats. But yes, yeah. And I think if we went through everybody's, which we're going to in the next year, we go through all of the primarchs stories. Everybody has their own individual reason for kind of their disposition and hatred of chaos. This one feels really personal, especially like you said, Mark, when he tries to come home and it's there. Oh man, heartbreaking.
You'd be pissed, man. You'd just like, what has all this been for? We got time for a couple quick call-ins. Do you guys got any other thoughts real quick before we let a call-in in? We're getting 2 hours and a half in, so
we're just getting started. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, we got 40 more pages of notes.
Yeah.
Yo, it was crazy trying to condense all this information. There's so much, and I hope we did a good job. And maybe the call-ins will say that we did. Pat us on the back. First up, we have Jax coming to the stage. Hey, welcome back. I hope you're not just going to talk about Curse for 10 minutes.
It's time, I gotta say. But
player,
Curse will get his own episode one day, and then I could suck him off then. But for now, it's the line.
Yeah, okay. So,
anyway, the lion.
What are your thoughts?
Lions had a tough go of it. Like every Primarch has had a really tough go of it, but the Lions stands above the rest. Like, oh, Horus is a war master. Dad loves him more. Oh, Horus Heresy breaks out. Great. Oh, I gotta fight Kurz. Oh, I gotta fight all these traitors. Kurz is on my ship again. Oh well. Now I gotta go to Caliban. Caliban's a traitor. My best friend betrayed me. My best friend killed me. These Nazgul looking guys are taking me into the warp.
Yeah. I like that he has that moment with Perturabo where he acknowledges, like, I'm the first one. Like, War Master should have been mine. And he has that brief moment where we see that emotion behind him. Like, that just plays into this whole thing, too. He's like, if I was War Master, none of this would have happened. If I had my rightful place from the beginning.
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is that's the exact reason why he wasn't War Master. Like, Horus was charismatic. Horus could actually like talk to people without lobbing off heads in a few minutes. The Lion couldn't do that. He right after Horus was elected, he's like, why wasn't I elected? Blah, blah, blah. But that's exactly why he wasn't elected, because he couldn't talk to other people without, killing people.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's too singular. He's not, I want to say too focused, but he's a bit singular in the sense that he's kind of unreasonable. He just is too focused on one thing, and it's just this black and white.
Yep. Yeah, like even when he's on Caliban, like growing up, and he's trying to unite all the knightly orders, like there are some that don't want to join him, and it's not like he just lets them live like in their own knightly fortress. It's like, no, you are joining me, or you will be killed. Like, this is the route we are going. This is what we are doing. And it even comes up a little bit again with the Imperium Secundus, and thankfully he was against two other Primarchs who he was respectful of and all that kind of stuff. So it didn't go that quite same way, but yeah, no, that's a good point. He kind of too singular, too focused, and didn't have that charisma to kind of really be a good war master. He'd fit good in the position of like the Imperial Secundus, where if everyone did get in their aligned spot, if all 20 Primarchs actually fulfilled their aligned purpose, yeah, you could see him being a good war master then. But we never got to that stage. We never even got close.
Well, he even had to be talked down by Leman Russ. Like, he had to be kind of like pulled back by Leman Russ, which I think if that's the case, it's very telling. Like, if Leman Russ is the one saying like, I think you need to back it off a little bit, I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
The
said
drunk
that,
guy
Court.
is telling you, come on, man.
Because
ahead.
I can't remember where I found it or saw it, but there are some theories that, because a lot of people think the Space Wolves is the legion that eliminated the 2nd and 11th legions, but a lot of people think it was actually the Dark Angels, that they called Russ the Executioner and the Watchdog of the Emperor, and he was the loud bark, 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 bark. But if they really wanted something taken care of, he sent the Dark Angels, his son, that is just a hammer that will take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. No questions asked, very practical, wipe out a legion. Cool.
Yeah.
And then the lion socked Lehman in the mouth. So
That'll
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Playing a
Imagine
little
being,
rough with the
Yeah.
dog.
I was going to say, imagine being unreasonable next to Lehman Russ.
That's
cat
what I'm
versus
saying.
dog.
Yeah.
Any other
Yeah,
thoughts there,
but,
Jack, on the lion and stuff?
I gotta say, the lion won the best duelist in 40K. And I don't know if any of you have read the Lion Son of the Forest yet, but first of all, Arcs of Omen, his introduction to 40K, kind of, his first campaign, he beat Ingron, which is sound
Wild.
pretty cool. And in the Lion Son of the Forest, Corvus, you know how like Corvus can kind of like even before he went into war, he had that like ability to turn invisible.
Yeah.
Well, the lion is kind of unlocking that psychic potential as well, because now he can kind of like teleport. He kind of like forest walk. If any of you have heard of that yet.
Interesting.
Yeah, because you mentioned, I think last time you called in, you mentioned that each of the Primarchs could kind of use their brother's abilities, and that would make sense that he could borrow from Korax like that.
It's not necessarily. It's each Primarch has like a connection to the warp. Some minute, some there. Corvus could turn invisible because he was very like warp attuned, but not as warp attuned as Magnus. But he could still like manifest some warp powers without like dealing with demons. Lion did some of that, and now he could kind of like he could do something called forest walking, where he could like go into a strange mystical forest that's foggy everywhere and show up completely random. And he learns to control that over like the course of the book.
That's cool.
Dang, that was pretty rad.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to learn more about that for sure. And if that kind of he's able to master that ability a little more. Interesting. Very cool. Well, you're giving me something to kind of research and read into. I was kind of wondering, does he have any psychic powers? And maybe that's kind of it, that kind of shadow step ability, forest walking. Cool. That almost plays into too, just like with, on the last episode, we are talking about the Watchers in the Dark and how their inspiration is kind of like forest sprites and stuff. That kind of just whisper around and stuff, and it's very similar to that kind of. You're walking through the forest, and then you kind of are jumping in between with these forest sprites. So cool.
And speaking of Watchers in the Dark, those guys are the cutest Eldritch horrors ever. There's a picture of them. They're like toddler size, and they're like for the Dark Angels, they're like holding up like books and stuff, and they're like a third their size.
They are so rad. Yeah, I think they were mentioned. Mark, did you guys touch upon them in minor Xenos races?
Yeah, but like so briefly that I don't think it's go listen to it, but I don't think we delved into like all of it that could be known. And like one of the reasons why it's taken Lorehammer so long to touch on any of the Primarchs and stuff, I was waiting for all the Horus Heresy books to come out. And with each new book, we learn another little detail, like the Sons of the Forest book. I gotta read that now, and I'm sure there's a bunch of information about Watchers in the Dark now. So, as 40K constantly is adding more books and stuff, I feel like that Watchers in the Dark on the minor Xenos is out of date.
Yeah, I hope they don't reveal too much though, because they're just so mysterious that it just is awesome already.
Yeah, like you could reveal a lot about them without revealing them. Like you can reveal their nature, you can reveal their abilities without revealing who they are.
Yeah.
So,
well, you see, I have the answer. So the lion made rings, right? And he distributed them amongst kings, right?
Oh, here we go.
I've been seeing you put Nazgul in the chat a lot. I was wondering when it was going to come up.
I saw that.
Oh, man.
No, what they
That's
are
so
is
funny.
that they're actually from Tatooine, and they are
No,
Jawa.
no,
Mhm.
no,
Mhm. Yes. Yes. What's
no.
under the hood? Just a Jawa.
no.
Right? The eyes, yeah.
In the meantime, they're like stealing little bits of the lion's armor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not holding those weapons. They're stealing those weapons.
That's the
Look
real
at the
reason they took him.
They're just running off with the book.
They wanted all his stuff. They saved him by accident.
Mhm.
They have like a little
Cool. Well,
side
Jax, thanks for
business.
calling in.
All right.
Yeah, very
Sweet, guys.
insightful. I'm glad we called in
Sure.
because I learned that little bit of detail about that shadow walking psychic ability, which, yeah, I think the Lion's my new favorite go-to guy, so I'm going to have to read some more about him. So thanks for that little tidbit.
It's not Curse. Curse isn't your favorite.
No,
Gotta do some more
I'm not a
propaganda in
baddie.
chat.
I'm too soft for that shit. You know, I'm way too soft. I don't even like spanking my dog. I'm like, here's candy and a pet. I love you, puppy. Yeah. Oh, you just tore open my daughter's dirty diaper. I love you, puppy. Whatever. All right, we'll get to the next person instead of weird personal stories. Thanks again, Jax.
Thanks, Jax.
All right, one final call in. That's probably all we got time for. Hey, Purge, welcome to the show.
What's up, boys? Another great show.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I like
Purge.
all the-
What is he your new favorite Primarch too, or what?
No, Bathammer will always be number one, but the Lion's pretty cool. Are you guys gonna do another episode on his current events, or is this wrapping up his saga then?
Yeah, so like I said, I had 5 more pages that I cut short, and I think the next episode for sure is going to be the Dark Angels in 30K, and then the next one after that will be the Dark Angels in 40K, and I think I'll add some in there as well. But part of me thinks as well, man, when I've been writing these notes, I start writing and I get to 40 pages. I'm like, holy fuck, when I started this, I'm like, 1 Primarch episode, 1 Legion episode, and now I'm like, I need 5 episodes just to cover anything important. So I'm still kind of figuring out how it's all going to play out. And until I write those Dark Angels notes, it might be 40 pages again and there won't be time for them. But if that's the case, there will be another episode at the very end of this whole big series about like Primarchs and 40K and where they're at, kind of one refresher type thing.
But see,
Well,
now do you have the feel of all the writers from the Horus Heresy? We're like, look, we're just going to cover the Horus Heresy. It's fine. Okay, well, we're like 12 books in. How much more are we going to do? Oh, we're going to keep going. Oh, well, we got to talk about this. Okay, well, we're going to do 60 books. Okay.
God damn. Yeah, no, like honestly, I've written a novel in and of itself and just fucking notes here. And we're just getting started.
It's all
But,
good.
Well, then, spoiler alert, my favorite part of him is his current saga. Because you have a Primarch that's going around that's not supported by anybody. He's just going out there doing his own thing in the current timeline. And to me, that's kind of badass. Because usually Primarchs are backed up by like their entire legion. And you got the line that's just going like world to world, like misstepping, just fighting monsters.
Yeah, like they call Guilliman the Avenging Sun, but like Lionel Johnson is the Avenging Angel. You know, he's that I don't have time for anything else except the destruction of chaos. Where Guilliman, he's like, I'm trying to run an empire here.
Yeah, and he's got the Ultramarines, but then he's got all the Primaris that he can, like, who knows how many Primaris he could activate in the blink of an eye if he needed it, where the Lion's got nobody. And even the Dark Angels don't even know that he's like back and doing stuff in the current timeline. Like, he's just this mysterious figure that shows up out of nowhere, destroys some monsters, and then disappears again.
That's so sweet, man.
It is
Then he
pretty
turns
rad.
on like he's had so many different versions of knighthood to him, and then this is kind of more of that like mythical dragon slayer, mythical beast slayer knight again. Back to it.
And it's going back to his roots. Yeah, it's going back to his roots. So like I said, I think his current, if I had to choose, his current incarnation within the 41 or 41k setting, I think is his best incarnation. Like, yeah, he did a lot of cool stuff when he was working with this Legion, but just like you said, that mythical Dragon Slayer, like when you add anything mythical to anybody, like it just takes it up a notch.
Yeah. Cool. I can't wait to learn more. Like, I know what's going to happen is every episode I'm going to be like, this is my new favorite Primarch. And now this is my new favorite Primarch. But this is my new favorite Primarch.
Except Cruz. You're always going to hate Cruz.
I was gonna say, we'll get you to Cruz, and you'll be like, "He's the best Primarch." I see what the chat's always going on about and ranting about every time I host a show about any other Primarch. It's always Cruz in the chat.
Yeah. I guarantee you that will happen for sure, man. I'm very fickle when it comes to who I play favorite with.
You will feel sorry for him. I guarantee it. Like,
Yeah.
I feel it. You will have. Oh, okay. Oh man.
I have heard.
No.
He's just like me.
He's just like me. He's just like me for real. I have.
No,
heard
I
that
understand the chat's devotion to him.
I have heard that the Night Lord books are the best written books in the entirety of 40k, 30k. Like, they're just the best from everything I hear from people who know more than me about everything.
Interesting. Cool. Well, we'll get there. What Legion is he?
I have to look it
11th?
up again.
No, he's not
I want
11th.
to say 11th, but I thought 11th was one of the
Yeah, that's the
hidden
banned one.
chapter. Yeah,
Uh, Night Lords are.
I want to say 13th, but no, it's
They're
not.
the 8th. So they're not that far away. Only the 8th Legion. So that's only 7 times 4. So only 28 episodes plus Xenos episodes in between. Only about 50 episodes away.
Or you could just skip a bunch of episodes, go straight to them, and then go back to everybody else.
Oh god damn.
Or we do him last because chat keeps asking for it.
Yeah.
Punish chat, but every time they ask, he gets
Yeah.
bumped another primal.
I mean, if you want every single chat about Cruz until we get Cruz, you can do that.
Engagement's engagement. Let's keep pushing him every time they ask.
Or what if I become sleazy and I sell the Primarch order? Join the Patreon now. You give me $1,000, I'll do whatever the fuck Primarch is.
Oh,
No,
picking up-
JK, just support the show because you like the show, and I'm not gonna do anything for you. I already just did a 2.5-hour episode, so just support the
New
show.
Patreon perk. Highest tier gets to choose the next Primarch.
That would
No,
be really
new
fun.
Patreon perk. I'll fly you down to Paradise Reef to talk all about Primarchs with me personally. That's what we need. But that's an expensive perk, 10 grand.
I'm gonna find. Speaking of Patreon and Discord and whatnot, I'm gonna find that personality quiz of like which Primarch are you from Legions. And Mark, I'll message you with it if you want to throw it in like Discord or something like that. It'd be hilarious to see what all of you guys get. And like if none of you are curs at all, because we're insane, you know what I mean? I'm gonna
hopefully,
find it.
if not, like get the banhammer out for whoever's like, okay, so we got a psychopath in here. Perfect.
Yeah,
So it's saying I shouldn't take that test.
So, oh man, I'll find it.
Cool. Well, any other thoughts there, Purge?
No, like I said, I just think that the Lions current, and you guys didn't touch on it too much, but that's also because it ran so long. But yeah, Lions current interpretation in the modern timeline to me is the best interpretation of them at the moment.
Cool. Well, I can't wait to learn more about it in a handful of episodes. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for the call in, Purge.
Yep. Bye.
All right, boys, we did it. What a journey that was. Yeah, man, I'm hyped. I learned so much about him. The Dark Angels episode is up next. That's going to be super sweet, learning about all the different hexagrammatons and all the different organizational things and all that kind of stuff. So super hyped.
Yeah, it was a good time. I think this might have been the most fun I've had filming an episode with you guys. So this has been really cool. I like this one a lot.
They get better and better, man. And as
They
our
really
friendship
do.
grows, so does the quality of the episodes.
Yeah, maybe that was the true lore hammer, the friends we made along the way.
It's true. It always has been.
For audio listeners, I just broke court.
Yes. I definitely learned a lot in this one. I think previous times, I mean, when we talked about the relics and the artifacts and stuff, there was a lot that I learned just because it's I mean, it's hard
Random.
to get that part random. Yeah. And then here knowing like, well, it's the lion, it's the dark angels and all that. Like I know a little bit, but like this was impactful, I think. And you really can't talk about it without really diving into the Horus Heresy. And I think we're going to see that a lot when the Primarchs episodes are coming up. It's just like you kind of have to really bring that in, and how sad it is. It's awesome. So yeah, this one,
Rip.
had a good time. Yeah.
You'll get through it, buddy. We're here for you.
I know. I got through the final battle. I read that without crying. That was good. That was good.
You started to choke up a little, then it got more. The emotion left the story, and then you were like, "Okay, I'm locked in. I got this."
I'm cold and calculated and steeled myself.
I am
Cool.
Horus
Well,
Lupercal.
thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. We'll do the end notes real quick. If you want to hear more homebrew lore, specifically and not official GW canon, come on over to the Lorehammer Listener Lore podcast. I read lore. I've had like 100 guests on that show with me as people send in their lore. We sometimes critique their lore, sometimes we read other people's lore, but man, it's been so cool just meeting so many different people through podcasting. So go check out Lorehammer Listener Lore podcast.
Oh yeah, I'm in this. No, I forgot. Sorry. Oh yeah, and then also
Still thinking about the Horus Heresy. He's like, oh man,
no joke. I was
tragic.
like, oh my gosh, the lion's been through so much shit. It's so cool. Oh man. Also, be sure to check out the Funkatronic Rex podcast, a podcast that I was deeply a part of, wrote, produced, edited, host, co-hosted, all that. Mark was on an episode. We talk about a little bit of the history of Lorehammer. We play some fun games. It's fantastic. So you guys can find us on Apple, Spotify, anywhere where you listen to podcasts. It's called the Funkatronic Rex podcast.
Yeah, and if you want to come change up what you're looking at a little bit, you want to see some cryptids, conspiracies, or religious mysteries, come check me out on YouTube at Hydra Thoughts. We got some cool new content coming for the next year, and I think you guys are going to like it.
Super cool, super cool. Well, we got one new Patreon since a couple days ago, day or two ago since the last time I recorded. So Zach, thank you so much for joining the hollowed halls of the Patreon tiers. Every dollar helps, man. Our Patreon grows steadily. Every day or two, we get a couple people, handful of people joining. So it grows and grows, and the more it grows, maybe one day I could commit to 4 episodes a week. But that, I know people are saying a UK-based team, so a lot of UK people can get on the show. But yeah, we'll see how we manage with just doing 3 a week for now. So thanks everyone for joining the Patreon and allowing me to do this and these other boys. So thanks so much. And with that, I think we'll say adios and farewell. And Court, Logan, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys
Stay safe, guys.
Yeah.